Welcome to Center Volunteers in Medicine, where healing meets compassion and every patient is treated with dignity. Our new facility is designed to provide free quality healthcare to those in need. But to continue our mission, we need your help. Whether you're a healthcare professional or someone with a passion for helping others, there's a place for you here. And for those in need of our services, we are here to help. We provide quality medical, dental, and behavioral health care, as well as case management and prescription services, all free for those who qualify. But we can't do it alone. Your donation can make a difference in the lives of those who need it most. Center Volunteers in Medicine, caring, compassionate, and committed to our community. To learn more about becoming a patient, a volunteer, or supporting our mission, please visit www.cvim.net.
You're watching CNET, Center County's Government and Educational Access Network.
All right, I will call to order this College Township regular meeting for Thursday, September 19th. Sorry, CNET, are you ready? Yeah. Okay, good. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we will open it up to public open discussion. I know we had a sign-in sheet and we have folks online. We did post the protocol for online if you wish to speak to raise your hand. Now I'm going to open it up first to public discussion for any items not on the agenda. And then we will actually open it up for anyone who would like to speak to the casino item, because that item in the agenda is for council to hear a presentation, and we won't receive any comments during that time. So I have a few signed in, but we'll go just online first and see if anybody has anything they can raise their hand. And remember, we're going to limit this, because there is quite a few people, we're going to limit this to 3 to 5 minutes, please. Anybody online? Okay. Okay, so I first have, is it Don Sistaro? Is that how you say it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you, Don.
I want to comment on the casino issue, and my comment really is has to do with the Lubert family. And my question to them will be is, in 15 to 20 years, how will the Lubert family name be appraised by the Center region and the Penn State community? Will it be synonymous with gambling addiction among university students? That's my comment.
All right, thank you, Don. I have Andrew Schaefer next.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to extend a plea and a caution to Mr. Lubert and everyone else involved with the development of the Nittany Casino. The national media has largely ignored Mr. Lubert's casino up to this point. However, people will take notice when harms begin to occur to Penn State students because of it. There are currently over 48,000 Penn State students, virtually all of whom will be legally allowed to gamble in the casino before they graduate. The gambling addiction rate among college students is at least 6%. Many studies show rates that are considerably higher. According to the National Council on Problem Gambling, 20% of gambling addicts will attempt suicide. It is statistically inevitable that students will become addicted to gambling in Mr. Lubert's casino and then die by suicide. Beyond those who die, many more Penn State students who become addicted to gambling will drop out of school, possibly with gambling debt, resulting in a greatly altered life trajectory for themselves and for our Commonwealth. National reporters will begin asking questions. There may be federal and state legislative hearings. What will they find? First, they will find that the only public hearing held for the Nittany Casino at which the public was permitted to speak was scheduled to take place on August 16, 2021, during the week before the Penn State fall semester began, when many people were out of town. Minimal public notice was provided, and pre-registration was required for anyone who wanted to speak at the hearing. This resulted in only 11 people speaking at the hearing. 9 spoke in favor of the casino, 2 were opposed. 3 of the speakers who supported the casino were government officials. One of those government officials who spoke in favor was this council's Eric Bernier. The other two were State Senator Jake Corman and State Representative Carrie Benninghoff. According to OpenSecrets.org, SC Gaming principals Ari Karbenjian and Robert Poole both have a long history of making substantial donations to State Senator Jake Corman and State Representative Carrie Benninghoff. Both of these SC Gaming principals also made donations to each of these legislators following their endorsement of the casino at the hearing. Investigators will also find that the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board closed the period for public comment on June 12, 2022, just as the volume of public opposition feedback to the casino was beginning to rapidly increase. This cutoff date was more than 6 months before the PGCB would hold its hearing on the approval of the casino license, and it unnecessarily denied the PGCB access to potentially relevant information. Further, they will find that when the State College community asked Penn State to take a stand against the casino to protect its students, the university's leadership refused to do so. The university's leaders did not publicly acknowledge that current Penn State trustee Richard Sokolov and former Penn State board chairman Ira Lubert are both principals of SC Gaming, nor did they discuss how this conflict of interest may have influenced their decision not to oppose the casino. Investigators will find that when the State College community subsequently approached the College Township Council, asking them to speak out against the casino or to send the community's feedback about the casino to the PGCB, the council cited the risk of a lawsuit from the casino developer as the reason it would not do anything to represent its constituents. Additionally, they will find that after the PGCB awarded the license for the Nittany Casino on January 25, 2023, it issued a document explaining its decision. This document states that the PGCB received 773 written public feedback comments about the casino, in addition to the 11 comments it heard at the initial public hearing, and that over 86% of these written comments were in opposition. It also states that the PGCB received petitions opposing the casino, which contained 7,335 signatures, and no petitions supporting the casino were submitted at all. None. Even so, the PGCB approved the casino. The decision document says that the PGCB has a duty to license casino operators, which suggests that they will never deny a casino license based on the objections of the potential host community. To the best of my knowledge, the PGCB has only ever denied the license for a casino 3 times. Once at Mount Airy when the developer lacked sufficient funds to proceed with the development, and twice when a developer repeatedly proposed building a casino at the Gettysburg National Battlefield Memorial, which is an idea so bad that it attracted national condemnation. A casino at Penn State must run a close second for bad ideas. While everything I've just described may be legal, and I'm not alleging that anyone involved has broken any laws, the optics are far from favorable. The decision to build a casino so close to Penn State University, with its large student body, is predatory, exploitative, short-sighted, and egregious. These are not characteristics for which we believe Mr. Lubert wants to be known. We have exhausted every avenue of appeal and every argument of reason in our efforts to protect Penn State students and the surrounding community from the harms that will be caused by this casino. We now appeal to Mr. Lubert's sense of decency and his character and his desire to leave a positive legacy in the Penn State community. There are many people who were involved in bringing this project to this point, but it will ultimately be Mr. Lubert who is most directly responsible. When students begin to be harmed, people will want to know why Mr. Lubert chose to pursue a project that so obviously will be harmful to so many, especially when he did so despite multiple warnings and over the strong opposition of the Penn State community. How will he answer the bereaved parents of students who have committed suicide because they became addicted to gambling at his casino, who want to know why their child died? Mr. Lubert's answer to this impossible question will be what people remember most about him in the future. The casino will be Mr. Lubert's legacy in the Penn State community. I appeal to Mr. Lubert, stop the development of this casino now. A decision to stop the development of this casino will prove that you have truly acted selflessly toward Penn State, and you will continue to be revered as the highly successful businessman and the generous philanthropist that you have been up until now. The decision is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. That's enough now. We have other people for comment, please. Please do not applause public comments. We have to keep this moving. All right, Ken Layton Jr.
So I'm Ken Layton. I'm not representing Penn State, but I'm representing the parents of the undergraduate students, age 18 to 22. And Mr. Lubert, is he in the room, or is he on the screen, or is he here?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Okay. Because I don't know who he is. So I agree with what Andrew Schaefer just said, and I'm just saying, Mr. Lubert, don't do this. and I'm representing the parents of the undergraduate students. And I'm just making an appeal. They're 18 years old. Yes, they're adults. They can make their own decisions. Many of them, they've been home all their life, and now they're out on their own. And I just don't agree with this, and I think there's a lot of people behind me too. So I'm just saying, reconsider your decision, and my vote is no.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Zoni Boniface, is that how you say it?
Hi. I understand that this council voted in favor or voted not to disallow the building of a casino because you all were concerned about revenue into the government from the Nittany Mall, and you were hoping that this would fill the bill. I'd be interested to know how much money do you think you're going to generate? And also, I understand that casinos get taxed to support programs that are directed to help gamblers who are in trouble. I'd like to know how much of that money, how much money is going to be raised by that tax? What's going to happen to it? What happens if it's not sufficient? I am from the borough, and the borough already deals with a preponderance of the antisocial student behavior in the State College area. We all benefit from the presence of the university, and the borough pays a lot of the bills. I'd like to know how whether College Township is going to help pay those bills.
Okay, thank you. Is it Scott Flume, is that correct? And please do correct me if I mispronounce your name. And Scott, if you could just also tell us where you reside at. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, and my name is Scott Flume, and I'm in Ferguson Township. And short statement, I oppose this casino going into our community.
Okay. Jim Flume. Again, as I call you up, please, when you open, just state your name and where you reside.
I know it's almost impossible to hear in the back. Is it loud enough? So good evening, and thank you very much for having us here today. I think everyone before
Jim,
me...
where do you reside at?
Oh, Ferguson Township.
Okay.
Yes, sorry about that. So the people before me, especially Andrew, have spoken eloquently on why this is not a good idea. They mentioned the student addiction. I don't know, I couldn't hear everything, but there's also local addiction, right? It's going to affect everybody in the area. It's going to bring in riffraff, people preying on other people. No? Can't hear? There is almost nothing this casino can do to improve the State College area. Take for example, Atlantic City casinos. They brought in probably a lot of money to the state and to the city, but what have they done to the local area? There's poverty, there's crime. The people that live there are being taxed out of their homes. Now, I hope the council understands the severity of this, and I hope that they can vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Is it BK Smeltzer?
I'm Bonnie Klein-Smeltzer. I'm a Harris Township resident. I've lived in the State College area for 22 years now. I've been opposed to the development of a casino from the start. And when I learned of the Bally's withdrawal, I had renewed hope that the casino development might be stopped. I've written to Mr. Lubert, and I understand it's basically in his lap whether or not he would move ahead with development. I'm opposed to this venture primarily, as others before me have said, because of the proximity to the students at Penn State. The dangers of a casino located so close to campus that not only close to campus, but a casino that would be open 24/7. And we know that our students are up at all hours. That's grave. Gambling addiction, as has been said, student debt, distractions from studies, and possible crime-related activity are all possible threats to the students that live among us. I think we cannot take it lightly. Students are at a vulnerable stage in their lives, and they do not need a gambling establishment so easily accessible to them. I'm also aware that Mr. Lubert has donated very generously to the Welcome Center for renovations at Beaver Stadium. And I applauded him for that, but also encouraged him to, as others have already said, think about the legacy that he will be leaving in this community. I also beg you as College Township folks to think of that as well.
Okay. Jackie Bonanno.
My name is Jackie Bonomo. I live in Lamont. I've been a College Township resident for 24 years. I'm also going to say no. I've written letters about this casino. I think it's a wrong thing for our area. I think it's a wrong thing for young people. And I'm really sorry it's gotten to this point. But I hope that you change your minds and say no. I would also like to speak to, if this is the time to do so, the solar purchase power agreement.
Jackie, I just asked that you wait till that point.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Susan Werner.
Good evening. I'm Susan Werner from Ferguson Township, and I'm also opposed to the casino. I was going to say bring up some of the points that previous speakers have already expressed. So I have one question for you supervisors. Have you considered putting this item as a referendum on the next election? Thank you.
Okay, and David Werner.
David Werner, 1324 Apple Tree Circle, Ferguson Township. I understand the position you're in. I was a Ferguson Township supervisor for 2 terms. I was also chief of staff at the hospital for 3 years. Being caught in a political crossfire is always difficult, and it's very difficult to make changes in your decisions when things have gone this far. However, I think all of the points that have been made about the predatory activity of casinos, the danger to university students, the crime associated with the casinos has to be taken very seriously. And I hope that even though this has gone quite far, that you'll be able to adjust your decisions and, as my wife said, potentially put this on as a referendum to see what does the electorate really feel about this rather than trying to guess. But from the room, I think you can imagine that there's a lot of people who are opposed to this. Thank you.
Okay. And then I have late ad Curtis Schluman. Is that correct?
It's been butchered worse. Usually don't need a mic, so I don't want to blow any eardrums out. Curtis Schulman. I live in the borough. I know some of the faces in here. And I actually think this format is something that makes our town special, is the fact that everyone cares. So whether we agree or disagree, it's pretty cool that we have each other's backs. I have a kind of unique take on this, primarily because I worked in Vegas for many years. So I'm a lifer born and raised in Happy Valley, moved back here, have a beautiful family in the area, and there's nowhere else I'd rather live. That being said, just having so much gaming experience, I think some of these concerns are, the assumptions are a little reaching. Associating these almost definite links to suicide and student behavior, I think, is an assumption. And a lot of this is based on the quality of the operators. We see it in bars, bar restaurants too. Alcohol is probably one of the biggest vices and biggest problems we have in the world. We have bars all over the place. We have bars that operate really well and responsibly in this community, and we have bars that are a little more problematic. And I imagine if you go to the police force, they could probably identify a few points where they see a lot more problems and heightened activity. If you follow gaming at all, and to be clear, I'm actually as boring as possible. I'm an insurance broker, so nothing to do with casinos. But if you follow gaming now, everyone can do it from their phone. You play blackjack on your phone, you can play, you can gamble on your phone, you don't need a bookie anymore, you don't need to go to Atlantic City. So the accessibility is what's going to make it a problem, right? It's not going to be the economic engine that is going to join the Nittany Mall.
Can you just make sure you speak into the mic for CNET's purposes? Thanks.
Sorry, I apologize, CNET.
That's all right.
So with this experience and being in Vegas, I experienced some really well-run hotels and great casinos where there wasn't solicitation and there wasn't the vagrants, and they focused on problem gambling and they did their best to make sure people didn't face these challenges. And in turn, you had the same casinos chasing dimes and other things that they were more problematic. I do not personally know Ira Lubert. I know some friends that are a couple degrees away from him and they have nice things to say about him. But I ironically do know HFL and Eric Pearson very well. So from a character standpoint, I felt the need to at least express that. These aren't people that live here, move here, teach here, have made a living here and want to destroy their backyard. I've known Eric for 17 years, 18 years. I actually interned with him in Las Vegas. And I've known the Kavanjians my whole life through my family. So I feel the need to express this isn't a group that's just looking to tear down the community. They love it here. They invest here. They're some of the more philanthropic people I've met. And it's important to keep that in focus. Not saying concerns aren't real. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do our best to make sure that the students that go to school here are set up for success. But a lot of these problems and the demons that these young kids face aren't a result of a specific establishment. It's a result of the decisions they make to that point. It's how they're raised. It's who their advisors are, their support systems. And a lot of the problems associated with Atlantic City have very little to do with the casino and a lot more to do with the surrounding areas, the other tax problems that we see in New Jersey and New York. And I just think some of this is a broad reach. I think it's worth having conversations. I think it's worth caring about our community and sharing our concerns. But I also think it's important to look at the benefits and take a step back and look at who's operating it. Because again, we have bars, restaurants, a lot of other venues that could be vices for these young people. But they can have positive outcomes too as long as they're operated with integrity. So again, I genuinely appreciate everyone in this room for making the community special and allowing me to raise my family here and be part of it. I just wanted to share a little different point of view from someone that knows these two very well and that you know, does have a lot of experience in the casino world. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then I think we have
one hand
one online. Yeah. Is that Ms. Datso?
Ms. Datso, hold on 1 second. We're having an audio issue here in the room.
It was working.
Might just be a volume on the now.
It's connected to TV. Try speaking again. Make sure the computer's muted. Let's try this again.
Switch it to the app.
It was on the Allen. I just switched to TV. Can you try speaking again?
My name is Sultran.
Have an echo.
That could be on her end if she has her laptop.
I can't mute my computer. All right, try it again.
My name is Sultran Datso.
There we go.
We got you.
I should go ahead?
You go ahead, we'll all be quiet.
Okay. I moved to State College when I was 15 years old, And, and I live here now. As a citizen and psychologist, I strongly oppose a casino in the Nittany Mall area of Center County for the following reasons. And I have to say that because the audio is screwed up, I have no idea what anyone said before me, so please just take this as it is. This college town and county obviously has the public health problems of addiction to alcohol and opioids. The casino would provide easy opportunity for developing gambling addictions. In addition, casinos contribute to problems such as disturbing the peace, interpersonal conflict in private and public, and economic hardship. In a community and time when many people are suffering from stress and depression due to economic challenges, academic pressures, and world events, developing a gambling disorder is more common. A casino in our area is not a good example of a sustainable, life-giving activity for residents and students. The fact that the casino investor was a member of the Penn State University Board of Trustees suggests profiting from the very students he was charged with protecting, educating, and preparing to launch into life as happy and productive citizens. There are many kinds of investment projects that would enhance rather than detract from the well-being of residents in Center County. Activities open to all ages, to families, and that draw upon the natural resources, the human resources, and educational resources we have for building community and belonging would be a better choice. Thank you for the time to express my sincere comments. Thanks.
Ms. Statso, could you just say where you're from for us?
Can you hear us? Anybody not?
We are having sound issues with CNET as well. Well, as far as the broadcast is concerned. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so it seems like we're having some sound issues, so we'll move on from that. I will call just one alibi in case you didn't get a chance to sign in the sheet. You can go ahead and approach the podium or raise your hand online.
Can you hear us online? Can somebody nod that's online from the OWL?
No, they can't.
No, they can't.
All right, we'll take a pause just so we can see if we can get this fixed.
It was working fine.
You're watching CNET, Center County's Government and Educational Access Network.
Okay, we're back in session. All right, one last call. Any alibis, especially for those online, we'll go to you first. If there's anybody who would like to speak, please just raise your hand with your icon, or you can even do it on your screen.
No.
Okay. And any alibis for anyone in the room for items not on the agenda, and that does include casino. Okay, we'll move on from public comments. Any members of council wish to address anything for staff before we move on? Okay. All right, any new agenda items? No. Moving on, and special presentation, Nittany Casino update, Mr. Eric Pearson.
Hello, my name is Eric Pearson, and I live in Bellefonte. We all said where we're from, so I'll say where I'm from too. So, you know, I don't know what the odds are in me winning a popularity contest in this room tonight, but they're probably not great. But I appreciate everyone coming out and you know, sharing with us your concerns, and you know, I'll try and address that a little bit here, and then give an opportunity for us to have a forum and a discussion. You know, this is called a special presentation. I don't know if it's not really a presentation, I don't think it's that special, but I wanted to give you an update about what's going on, and also respond to you know, some of the comments that we heard here tonight. First, I want to address those that have taken the time to come and share your feelings and your thoughts here. I have read every letter, every email, every submission that has been made on this project, about this project, and both for and against the casino. You know, I've been Ira Lubert's casino guy for nearly 10 years now. I know that there's been, we've received about 27 or so messages over the past week. And just letting everyone in this room know, it's likely that if you're sending Ira Lubert an email about this project, you're really sending me an email with an extra step. I just want to share that with you. If you have concerns about the project, and I'm going to make myself available to you all, I really am the focus. I should be the focus of your attention. And if you want to influence or share concerns, I am the source. I should be the recipient of that because I'm the one that will have direct control over what this casino does and how we operate. And I can tell you exactly what we think and feel and why we are doing it and what our intentions are. Many of the responses that we've received have been incredibly thoughtful and respectful and well thought out. And many of the points, quite frankly, we agree with. We really do want to have additional development come to Center County and specifically to the Dale Summit area. We heard lots of suggestions, things like bringing in a Costco and pickleball courts and Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's and all these other kinds of great developments. We wholeheartedly agree. We want those kinds of developments to come in, and we are really excited because we think this casino project is going to be able to make all those other things possible in an area where it has not materialized because we do not have sort of critical center of gravity necessary in order to spur on that kind of development from national firms. We also agree on many other points, things like problem gambling. Problem gambling is a real thing. We are very well aware of this and work very, very diligently to combat these kinds of things. I know of no other industry, whether that's alcohol or cannabis or anything else, that does more to educate its team members on how to deal with problem gambling, how to identify it. Every piece of marketing collateral, every marketing message that we produce has the 1-800-GAMBLER number on it. And there are multiple places in the brick and mortar casino when it's open across the whole floor. We have messages everywhere, and every staff member is trained no less than once a year on how to identify and deal with problem gambling issues as they pop up in our customers. Also, too, and it was mentioned that the rates of this that have been very, very well studied are sub 5%. And most of the data that I see is sub 3%. That's not to diminish it as a problem or say that because it's so small, it's not something we take seriously. But I do think it's important to understand the scope of what that number means and compare it to other things. Like it's about the same rate of problem issues that come with alcohol consumption, with online shopping, with many of the other behaviors that folks can get caught up in. Tends to be about that 2-3% rate. And gambling is no exception, but it is on par with other activities that do pop up and show problems. Also, too, the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board, our regulator, is, I've worked all across the country in many different jurisdictions, and I can tell you definitively from my own experience, the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board is by far the most professional, sophisticated regulator that I've ever had to deal with. And to think that we're somehow going to get away with something or operate in any way other than what they allow is, it shows a lack of understanding of how our industry works, and especially how it works in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I can't overstate that point enough. We also agree that Penn State is incredibly important. I can't think of many people in this world that have done more or love Penn State more than Ira Lubert. Okay? And while many of the emails and letters and messages we've received have been very respectful and thoughtful, there were some, and I know that this is a group of individuals, this is not a coordinated effort, but there have been some messages that have been very disappointing to read. I've lived here for 4 years now, and I have never felt unsafe in my time in Center County, in Happy Valley, until I read some of your messages that have come through in the past week. And frankly, I am not surprised to see that kind of messaging in national politics, but I did not expect to see the way some of you have articulated yourselves, and maybe it's no one in this room, but I was quite shocked to see how some of you have expressed yourselves and the lack of civility that has gone on. And I know that that does not represent all of you as a whole. And like I said, most of you have shared your thoughts and concerns, and we respect that and understand that. I'm not up here to change anyone's mind. I understand if you are against gambling and you're against the casino project, I understand and we respect that, okay? But I just ask that we act civilly in the discourse, and I hope most of you agree.
Mr. Pearson, just try to talk right into the mic if you can.
It's for CNET more than anything.
Understand. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you can also just take the mic off.
Maybe I'll do that.
That's easier.
Okay, we'll try that. So this really is not the proper forum for a dialogue, right? I'm up here to give a presentation, and I've heard your comments, and there's not really a mechanism for us to sort of respond to the points you brought up in this setting. However, it is very important to us that you understand that we hear you, and that we court and openly want to have a dialogue. As early as, so tomorrow, I've asked the township for use of this room, and we've secured it between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. tomorrow. I will be back here, and I welcome anyone who wants to come talk to me about the project. I want to hear your concerns specifically, and if you are open to having a dialogue, I want to have that with you. And I understand that we don't agree on everything, but I'm a part of this community, just like you are, and it's important to us that you are heard. And I do understand, because of the course of how things have had to go, that there has not been an appropriate time for us to have that dialogue, but we can do it now. Bally's departure is a part of that. But we can now have that, and I'm here to talk to anyone who wants to talk to me about the project, and share with you what our intentions are, and understand what your concerns are, and that is genuine. I've been counseled by everyone associated with the project, both inside and outside, legal people and things like that, to not do that. We do not need to for any reason, and universally, everyone I've told that I'm going to do this has told me that it is a bad idea, and I should not do it, and I don't care. I want to hear you, and I want you to know that we are listening, and I've heard everything that you've said, and I've read everything that you've said, and I've gone over all of the submissions, and so has Ira Lubert, okay? Your messages have not just hit a nothing space where no one cares or listens. I've read every word, okay? And I want to be able to have that dialogue with you, and I'm very grateful for the township for allowing me use of the space to do that. And if tomorrow from 3 to 6 doesn't work, you guys know how to get a hold of me, definitely. You've been getting a hold of Ira quite easily, and I'll give you my contact information. I'm happy to have as many of these sessions as you would like. I want you to be heard, okay? And I recognize that if I were in your shoes, I probably would not feel that at this moment, that we are hearing you or that you've been heard. And it's important to me that we do offer that, and I'm here for that purpose. I also, when I said before, I sort of want you to direct your energies at me, it is because I want to just definitively state, this casino project is coming. Construction should begin before the end of this year. It will take about 12 months to build, and then it will be open. There is not I know many of you expressed, that you wanted to have a vote, or you would like the township council to make some sort of intervening thing. And I believe, unfortunately, some of you are operating on bad intel. That is not a mechanism that is at play here. If you want to see some change with the casino project, please come talk to me tomorrow night. Okay? I will be available to you. If you have concerns about how we operate, if you have concerns about what our intentions are, I've heard a lot of talk about how we're worried about the student body at Penn State. I teach at Penn State. My students are the students that you are talking about. I think you may benefit from hearing my perspective on what we think of the student body as customers and things like that. Before this project, we ran Valley Forge Casino in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. There are many colleges surrounding that area. There's a significant number of students there. I don't think I can remember ever seeing college student age customers at any sort of size or frequency at that property. The fact remains, and I tell this to my students, that college students make really crummy casino customers for a variety of reasons. And it typically is not something that they're really that engaged in doing, even if we really wanted them to go, which we do not, I assure you. And I want to give you that forum tomorrow to come hear that from me and ask questions. You can dive into details, challenge me on things. I want to give you that opportunity. So, real quick, I guess this is now the presentation part of my special presentation, and it's very, very short. I just want to give a quick update on what's going on with the project. 6 days ago now, a joint press release went out from SC Gaming and from Bally's announcing that we were parting ways, essentially that Bally's was leaving the project. To give a little background on that, and I've been trying to, there's sort of more complex legal issues at play and things like that. But it was totally amicable. It was a joint press release for a reason. There was no tension between the two parties or anything like that. It was really simply a shift in Bally's, long-term strategic goals. And I think that anyone that has, I can't speak for them, and I do not speak for them, but anyone that's really followed the issue or the industry knows that Bally's is going through a number of significant, really large-scale developments in Las Vegas, in Chicago, and their priorities have shifted over the past nearly 4 years that this project has been in a limbo state. And we found ourselves at the time where it's, the analogy I give is we sort of had an arranged marriage, and then after 4 years, that it was never consummated, and then after 4 years, we sort of looked at each other and says, and went, do you still want to go through this with this? And we looked and went, I don't think so. Like we both have goals sort of going in other directions, and we decided to part amicably along those lines. It doesn't make for good news. It's not very sensational, but that's the truth. That's what has happened. And by design, it's also important to understand really what role Bally's has played in the project up into their departure, which is really non-existent. Bally's has been a potential partner that something would happen in the future if the gaming board signed off on it. Literally the only thing that I did Friday when that press release came out is I called our architects and I said, hey, you know the 3 spots where we had Bally's written on the outside of the building? It's not going to say that anymore. Am I good to go? You're good. Okay. Sorry. Now that that's done, the project is unchanged. There is no change in our timelines, in our schedules. All of the work that we've been doing over the past 4 years to prepare for the project to start and waiting upon our final unappealable license, which we now have since the Supreme Court ruled. There's not another step to go through. The project is ready to go from a licensing standpoint. That's all ready to go. And if anything, the Bally's departure may have probably accelerated our construction timeline slightly because we likely won't have to go through a regulatory step to have them join into the project because they're no longer joining the project. And that's really all the news that's sort of fit to print. From what we've been working on and what we've been doing, there has been no change. There's no change in plans and Bally's departure other than the press release, and it just won't say Bally's on the outside of the building now. Other than that, nothing changed. But I wanted to get in front of council here and address the folks that have come to share your comments with me. And also, to make myself available for any questions that council has about the project. You know, our goal has always been to be completely transparent, and we're so super excited to bring this project to life here because I know the transformational nature of what it represents. And, you know, I understand that my industry, you know, much like alcohol or other industries similar to it, that there can be ill effects. But let me tell you about what my experience in this industry has been. So I've worked in this industry since I was 16 years old. I started bussing tables in the casinos in Laughlin, Nevada, where I grew up. My mother was a cocktail waitress for about 30 years. She was, for the first few years of my life anyway, a single mother. She never was able to go to college, did not have a degree, but the job that she had at the casino provided financial stability. She owned our house. If I was sick, I went to the doctor. When I crashed my bike and I cut my eyebrow and my chin, I got stitches, and we were not financially crippled because of that. And that's what this project, that's what land-based gaming represents to me, because I lived it. Because we had that stability of my mom's casino job, I was able to go to college. I was able to pull myself up, and I was able to send the ladder down for the next group. That is what land-based gaming is for me. And that is no joke. That is not spin. That is my life. And I'm excited about what I know we can do here with that same kind of thing. You know, there will be cashiers and cooks and waiters and waitresses and dealers and slot attendants and technicians that will be able to own homes, that will be able to support families, that will not have one, and not be one incident away from financial stress. That is what the casino represents. And that is the legacy that we are looking to build here and deliver for this community. That's all I have.
Okay, before we go to comments from staff and council, I just want to say I really am thankful for everyone with their respectful discourse and ask you to continue that. And I did see Mikala Amanatu Amato. I just wanted to address you, have your hand up, but we're not taking any more public comments. And we had said that. So, okay, council or staff, do you have anything, any comments prior?
I do not.
If things are going to be transparent, there has to be a public dialogue?
No, there's no action.
Yeah, again, we stated at the beginning we would not be taking any more comments at this time and that they would be in public open discussion. All right?
Nothing from staff.
Okay. All right, Eric, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Just a comment and a couple of questions. First of all, I know we asked you to be here, so I won't thank you for being here, but I will.
I felt like it was at least half my idea.
I do appreciate you. I mean, it was news to me tonight, hearing from you that you're going to be here tomorrow night to answer questions. Kudos to you for ignoring the legal advice and putting yourself out there. Hearing your comments tonight, I think that would be a really good opportunity for folks. The questions, 3 of them, should that go over well, I assume the township is open to a second opportunity, or maybe you are, should anybody not be able to make it tomorrow, given the late notice.
Absolutely. I do want to address that. My goal with offering this opportunity tomorrow evening is not to have like a super late notice event that no one can change their schedule around to get to. It is just, I wanted to make sure that I made my, like I was talking today, the very next day, I wanted to make myself available for these responses. I didn't want to push things out and schedule something for way in the future. And definitely, as long as there is desire to engage with me, I want to talk to whoever in the community wants to do that.
I sense that was your answer, and I wasn't insinuating anything
yeah,
other
I didn't take it that way.
Trying to maximize the opportunity.
Yeah.
Second question, you referenced when you talked to Ira, he talked to you. I assume then all those emails get forwarded to you. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct.
So you're in. Anybody who sends anything to him, you see.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Anything that's related to this project, okay. Ira does a lot of things and a lot of different that he does not send my way. But
okay. I thought that's what you were saying. I just wanted to make that clear.
All the messages that I think the community has sent him and the folks that have come here tonight that have directly reached out to him, those messages have been sent to me.
Okay, and then last, the question, the Bally's situation. Mm-hmm. So if I understand you correct, there really wasn't any need to be partnered with someone like Bally's from the start, ever?
Correct. Yeah, and I forgot to mention that. So from the genesis of this project, we never set out to partner with another group or another casino company. Ira and I have ran Valley Forge Casino Resort with no outside company or management or anything like that. We are experienced casino operators. I've been doing this for over 25 years. And that was always plan A. Bally's coming in was really, they wanted to get into the market 4 years ago, and they saw this as an opportunity, and we met with them and said, oh, okay, yeah, and there are benefits for us to do that, to not just be a complete standalone company. Usually things like national databases and things like that, it can be handy to do that, and it can be accretive to the operations of the property. And so that's why we decided to enter into a framework agreement to partner with them pending approvals. And when we sort of had our check-in, now that we're ready to start ramping up for construction, they shared with us that, hey, look, our priorities are changing. We're taking on these huge projects elsewhere in the country, and we need to make a shift, or we'd like to make a shift. And we said, absolutely, that's totally fine. Like if they weren't a necessary ingredient before, and their departure hasn't really, like I said, it didn't, other than changing the name on the side of the building, there was no difference. We were always developing the casino. It was our group that was building it, making all of the decisions, and none of that changed with Bally's departure.
Okay. Thank you. That clears up some of the confusion that I had heard since the announcement.
Yeah, there's been a vacuum, I think, and that's been filled with a lot of assumptions and other stuff, and part of that was by design. It was being respectful of the regulatory and the approval process, the process that the Supreme Court was going through. And so I haven't been relatively quiet on this publicly because we've been hiding. It's because it was just not an appropriate time for me to do it. But since last Friday, it is the appropriate time. And in a week's time, I will welcome whoever wants to engage with me, and I will do that as many times as they would like.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go to Susan next.
I have a question for staff. In terms of the process, was the final land development plan approved previous to this? So that's in place now, and that will go forward based on...
That's correct. Yeah, the land development plan had been previously approved. That approval was good for 5 years. I'm not even sure which year we actually approved that, but they're well within the time frame at this particular point in time. I understand that you're doing some value engineering at the moment, or at least evaluating some of those kinds of things, but I don't think that there would be any changes that would impact the land development plan. The approval stands, and there's nothing more that is needed.
Thank you.
Good. Rich?
Follow up on that question. The plan that needed approved actually could have been approved at the staff level because it was minor.
That is correct.
However, the conscious decision.
We brought it forward. Essentially, the primary modifications that were being done were to the parking lot, the exterior, some of the public ingress, egress, those types of things, sidewalks, for example, and staff determined that it was in the best interest of the township to bring that through the formalized process.
Right. And I think that just from our side of the table, I think that will continue. I think we've been cited as one of the best resources of anti-casino dialogue in the country through some of the publications and everything. That wasn't the intent. The intent is what we know our residents will know. And beyond the College Township residents, the regional residents, the county residents, and even the state residents and everything. And I feel comfortable, at least with my current peers, that that's going to continue. And if there's hard conversations to be had, I feel comfortable that we'll be having them. From your presentation, I appreciated that it sounded like you would hear us and you would be receptive and work with us where needed and everything. So we still have, my understanding is we still have a lot of homework to do ourselves. This is a relatively new concept in Pennsylvania. There's not a lot of those. One of the first things we did is we went and saw one of the ones and everything. Since then, there's been a couple more that have come online, and we're going to, I think we've made a commitment to going to see those and learning lessons from what other people have or haven't done. And I just see that continuing. But I applaud you for opening yourself to those type of meetings, as Eric said, ignoring the lawyers and everything. That's sometimes hard, but
I hope I'm right. I hope I'm right. But
right. No, I think it's honorable, and hopefully some folks, we may not agree on things in life, but as long as we've had opportunities to communicate and mitigate as much or where we can, I think that's all we can ask for.
Unfortunately, I'm very cognizant of, I know exactly what our intentions are for how we want to operate this facility. Things like integrity and things like me standing up here and saying these words, if I didn't mean them, they would almost sound the same way, and I'm aware of that. And the only other thing I can say is I will do everything I can to be as transparent as I can with the whole process. And you will see, when we open, when you see how we operate, when you see what we do, when we see who we hire, when you see how we support the community, judge us by our actions when we're up and running. Before you form opinion of us as, this outside group that is just coming in to, take things away from this community, I just can't stress enough that cannot be further from the truth. The people that are involved in this project, and very uniquely, it could have been an outside group that won the auction. It could have been someone that doesn't care as much about Penn State as Ira Lubert. It could have been literally anyone else. And I don't know of any other group that could be running this casino that is going to care about Penn State as much as we are, that is going to care about this community as much as we are. And I just ask for those that doubt us, I hear you and I understand and I know where you're coming from, but just watch us. Watch us and judge us on our actions and judge us by what we do or don't do and deliver on this promise to the community.
Thank you.
Well, that was a great closing statement, but I'm going to ask you to say a little more.
Okay.
So you expressed that you guys are a bit experienced in this, right?
Yes.
Right. And so this is, as Rich had said, this we don't know. Right? This is our first go around. So can you just kind of go over and just give a summary of what it looks like, how you guys have worked with municipalities and communities in the past? Just maybe a little bit, 5-minute elevator speech.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So at Valley Forge Casino Resort, and I definitely encourage you to reach out to Upper Marion Township. They were and Montgomery County. Those were our host communities. And I'm willing to wager that when you call and check in and say, oh, what was it like working with Eric Pearson and Ira Lubert? I think you're going to get some very glowing recommendations. You can go back through our license renewal hearings, which are on the PGCB. It's posted, and all those archives are there. And listen to the statements from staff and the township manager and folks in the local community, and hear stories about how, every Thanksgiving we go and we would feed the fire crew in the police department, and I mean, these are little things, but we're not from somewhere else. Everyone that's going to work at this casino are going to be from here. This is a community casino. We're made up of people from the community. We're not importing 350 to 400 people from somewhere else that don't give a crap about Center County and the community. It's going to be us. And that's been very important. That's why I have been here for 4 years and why I got a house here. That was very important to Ira, that I join and be a part of the community, which I've done. And now I don't, this is probably bad news for everyone here. I don't know if you're going to be able to get rid of me because I really, really love it here. And I see why when the announcements went out about the project, I've had an endless stream of former Penn State graduates, or I guess not former, they are Penn State graduates, that have gone on to work in the industry that want to come back. They've gone out and they work in big markets like Atlantic City and Las Vegas and all throughout the country, and from heads of surveillance and sports books and table games and all kinds of people, Penn State grads, that want to return back to Happy Valley because they know it's as special as I know it is. And that makes me really happy. I wish I had a better word for this, but I'm just so excited about what we're going to bring here and the transformation it's going to create.
Okay.
I had a quick follow-up.
Yeah.
If I could. Thanks. Just follow up on something that Rich said, because I think it's important. Rich mentioned the research that we did. He touched on that. You know, we conducted a fact-finding trip as part of the outreach and research we did early on. Greensburg, is that the name of the community?
Yep.
Yeah. Sat down and talked to the elected officials, to the mall manager. I mean, we were there. It was the same thing. It was a mall. And for those who are going to be joining you tomorrow or in the future to ask questions, one area that I would focus on, because it doesn't get talked about enough, was the area that was possibly most eye-opening to me, and I think all of us on that fact-finding, was the depth and degree to which the state regulates casinos. I was frankly shocked. I was frankly shocked at the level of oversight. And I think that certainly put us at ease as far as, geez, who's going to deal with this if it happens? Well, it ain't going to happen. Right. Because if it happens, you get your license yanked and your door's closed. So I think if for those who show up tomorrow have questions, I would, if you don't have much time, I would focus on that area. I would learn as much as I can about what the state requires of you as a casino operator in all aspects, including security. Because I think that certainly surprised us, made us feel a little bit better, and I think it would be helpful for people to know that.
Yeah.
And I assume you are well-versed in that.
Yeah, very much so. That's really, when I started working for IRA over 8 years ago now, you know, I laid out sort of a list of what my priorities are as a CEO. And the number one priority on that list was my job, first and foremost, is to protect the integrity of the license. And that means working hand in hand with our regulators to make sure we never do anything that we're not supposed to. And if we do that on accident, we self-report. We are very proactive in letting our regulators know what has gone on, what we've done about it. And trust me, they are very proactive in responding to that. That also was not spin or lip service. The Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board and its staff is, in my personal experience, by far and away, the most sophisticated, professional regulatory body of any state I've ever worked in. And when I say they hold us to task about what we do, it is an understatement. And they're great to work with. They're also a very mature regulator. Keep in mind, too, Pennsylvania is the #2 gaming revenue state in the country. This is not a new industry for Pennsylvania. You know, there's over a dozen casinos. I think we'll be the 16th or 17th casino open in the state. And from a tax revenue standpoint, Pennsylvania is the #1 state in the nation, exceeds even the state of Nevada in tax revenue that comes to the Commonwealth. So that did not happen by pure accident. There's a very professional group of folks that make sure that the industry is doing what it should be doing.
Doesn't mean that I don't have some anxiety or concerns, but I was very relieved to see the support that the community would get at the state level for something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're very practiced at it, that level of engagement. And I experienced the exact same thing in King of Prussia at Upper Merion Township and that relationship there. And definitely, I've met the crew, the field crew that is going to be overseeing the facility here for the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board staff. And they know what they're doing. They are on their game, I assure you. I'm not going to be able to sneak anything past that. Not that I would, but I definitely would not even try.
Adam, did you have something?
I just wanted to remind everyone that we continue to post information about the casino and progress on our website. We actually have a specified tab where all that information is logged and has been logged since the beginning of this process. We'll continue to keep that up to date. And we'll add to that as items come up and events occur. So that is something that can be a resource to everyone within the community to help track things. And the other thing that I'll mention is that council had obligated to do its own impact study, and that is something that staff and I are working on right now. We expect here in the very near future to be bringing forward some recommendations and to get a few questions answered by council as far as putting that study together and moving forward with that. So there are things that continue to be worked on. There are things that still need to be done, but those things are in process, much like as it appears your work with the casino.
Yeah. And one more thing I want to say to sort of add on to that, and there's not really a way to recognize this, but if I'm speaking out loud, I'm sure Adam will definitely correct me. Throughout this whole process and with the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board and that public comment period, that window was open for nearly a year longer than statute dictates. And the board came to us and asked if we were okay with doing that. And they said if we had an opportunity to push back if we thought that was a problem, because that is the rule. And we said no, that's fine. If they felt that keeping the window open for longer was a benefit to the community, we have no issue with that. When we were talking about the land development plan and things like that earlier, we have never pushed back against trying to hide any element of this project from the public, or not be transparent, or try to influence your staff or crew on any of this stuff, because that's not who we are, and that's not how we operate. I'm glad that Curtis was able to make it and speak today. I first met Curtis when he was an undergrad at Penn State and part of an internship program that the casino that I was working at the time was running. And Curtis, I've known him because he was my intern for the summer while he was attending Penn State. And that was his introduction to the industry. And he went on to achieve great success there and came back and now doesn't work anywhere near the industry at all. And it's just, I was glad I could see him. But that's who we are. And I'm doing the information, the forum, and we'll do as many as are requested, because it's really important to me that everyone understands that. I'm not some nameless, faceless entity that's out here trying to do something bad. I'm here to, create jobs, and I think this is going to be a transformational project, and I'm just so excited for everything else that it's going to kick off in the Dale Summit area.
Okay, we'll put a close to that. Yeah, and so the Q&A, it is a Q&A. There will be comments. There will be public dialogue with Eric personally, right, tomorrow.
Yeah. Anyone from 3 to 6 p.m. in this room, I'll be here, and definitely if there are other times that work for you, I've as recently as today traded emails with Dan Materna. Is Dan in the room? He's not here today. He has my direct email address. I can make sure that Andrew has it if you don't have it. And I know that you're, sort of some of the leaders of the group, and a lot of the communications coordinated that way. I really do want to hear from you and engage with you. And if you're open to doing that back the other way, let's have a dialogue. I want you to understand who we are, how we're going to operate, what our values are, and then judge us by our actions. But it's not fair to direct your energies to this council. Or to really IRA. There's nothing that can be done or influenced at that level anymore. The casino's coming, and I'm the one that's going to run it. Like we're the decisions of what we do and how we operate, I want to hear what your concerns are and engage with you on that. You know, we're not hiding.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pearson.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the manager's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Several things on the manager's written report. We will be talking later this evening about the solar power purchase agreement, answering a few critical questions there. I also wanted to mention that there is an action item on our consent agenda this evening with respect to a resolution to make application for another grant to pursue funding for the Path to Campus project, our sidewalk project along College Avenue. So we'll be dealing with that. You heard this evening from Mr. Pearson about Bally's and the termination of the partnership agreement. There's also an item in the consent agenda, or I'm sorry, in correspondence this evening with respect to PC actions concerning the attainable workforce housing ordinance that we'll be dealing with as well. The one item here, the general industrial zone district, the indoor recreation facility matter that was taken up by council, that had been forwarded to Patton Township because, as you know, we share a zoning district, and any changes that we might be contemplating or considering need to also be approved and endorsed, if you will, by Patton Township. But that has occurred, and that has been returned to us at this point, I think, with favorable comments. So that is something that I know that Lindsay, as the planner, is going to be working on the remand letter soon for council's review for forwarding on to PC here over the next several weeks. And yeah, the only thing that I will mention is progress has definitely been made relative to the sinkhole at the Nittany Mall. So that is good news, and that is everything that I have, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for the manager? Okay. All right, COG Regional County Liaison Reports. Who wants to go first?
I can go first, mine are brief. I have a report from the COG Public Safety meeting last week. My report is written, it's already in with our packet. The one thing I do want, well, a couple of things I want to highlight. The 4 positions, the combined like code and fire safety positions have been, offers are out. They may be hired by now, and the anticipated start date for that is October 7th. We had a presentation from Scott Rawson and Steve Baer from Center LifeLink, and they highlighted for us some of the conditions that they're dealing with as they continue to get decreased reimbursements in terms of insurance for calls that they respond to. And you can see they've got, they have more bad debt. And so one of the things that they're asking municipalities to consider right now is providing an annual financial support, in particular for helping offset the cost of the ambulances as their bad debt grows, as reimbursements from insurance come down. Right now they're flat at membership participation at about 14%. So revenue is under expenses, and so, you know, over the next few years we could see impacts in terms of ambulance availability. So that is in detail available to you, and I think I probably included the report from Scott. And then CTIDA is very brief. We had not much to report from the meeting. I did include a copy of the executive director's activity. She continues to work both with, you know, with the financial agencies in town, also with our economic development partners. I did attend the first of the 2 strategic planning sessions. 7 of the 9 IDA members were there and present, and we were busy and robustly engaged for the whole 2 hours and then some. So working on mission and vision statement, and then next week there'll be the 2nd session, and that will work on a SWOT analysis, and then go back and refine the mission and vision statement. And I wanted to let council know there was discussion around our mission and vision statement and how to align the work the CTIDA is doing with our mission and vision statement. So in particular, Anthony Frigola was active in that discussion along with me. So that's what I have.
Okay, questions for Susan?
We certainly appreciate the consistency and looking at both of them together, for sure.
And by the way, it was really a great strategic planning session. The pre-session activity she had us do, looking at a TED Talk about why my why, and then the discussion. I mean, we could have gone 3 hours in this session. We were so busy. So.
Rich?
He should be last.
Last?
He's got a lot to report.
Oh.
We can cliff notes it.
All right.
We wrapped up the 2 weeks of COG budget review. It appears the final number is going to come in just under 6% increase to municipal shares. For that, we moved forward several initiatives to include parking lot work at the COG building, restrooms at Hess Field, a staff position at the Parks Agency, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of details. Council will be seeing just to go through the process, we endorsed a detailed budget that will then be used by staff to build the summary budget, which will be sent to the municipalities for comment and everything. One of the points to note is we're about a month ahead of the schedule from last year. So that was requested so that the COG budget informs the municipal budgets, and so I think we've achieved that goal. One of the other things we road tested today is the opportunity for the Finance Committee, rather than the all up or all down, we reviewed each agency budget and up and down across those. The majority was absolutely unanimous. There was 2 or 3 that there was a couple dissenting votes, but overall I think it was a very positive process. I can't extend my thanks and appreciation for the interim COG executive director and his work with staff.
Award money.
And that too, and towards getting us to this point. So hopefully the rest of the region feels as warmly as I know I do.
Okay, anything else?
Oh, there could be lots, but I'll say you're welcome to ask me any questions when the time comes.
Okay, I guess I'll go now. I don't think I've attended a committee meeting or any sort of meeting where the solar power purchasing agreement wasn't a topic of discussion. So I did have the CAS-C, or the Climate Action Sustainability Committee meeting 2 weeks ago, where we did receive an SPPA update. I'll leave it at that. We're all getting these same updates. We're going to talk about it again tonight. But what we did receive there too was revisions to the municipal solid waste ordinance, and so that will start coming around. And as part of that conversation that we received also was just an update to the refuse cart selection, which was really no different than we had received prior to that same meeting. Okay, I had executive today. I just want things of note. There was many public comments. We took public comments at the beginning dealing with the solar power purchasing agreement. And there was many in the affirmative of support for the solar power purchase agreement. So just want to note that to you. We reviewed the CPIC Economic Development Plan. You guys will see that at General Forum. We did affirm to send the draft budget up to the municipalities. And we also received another SPPA update where there was more public comments given. You guys will also see in General Forum for a CCMPO budget transfer, some money moving from other line items in for consultant support for the CCMPO long-range transition plan, right? Transportation plan. I put a period on my trans and I couldn't remember what it was.
Just call it the LRT, the LRTP.
Yeah, LRTP.
And you don't have to figure out what it stands for.
And that's about it. We received, many other matters of record, but we will see all those carry through. Any questions for me?
Well, if I could just expand on the CCMPO, we did, in between all the other discussions that we had, we did include that. And one of the key components of that is it's using existing funds, and for, you know, when you use existing funds that are there, that's a one-time thing, but we're using that to do a one-time thing, which is support the development of the plans. We did talk about, so the first question is always, how did we get here? Why did this happen, or whatever? And it was discussed that this is the confluence of multiple required plans all at once. And the new executive director indicated that he's going to Gantt chart it such that we should hope to avoid it in the future. But the reality is the money was there already. We've already had already contributed that. Hopefully we can get the timing of those contributions to match up better with when the work actually occurs. Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, and we received our first executive director report from the new executive director. So just wanted to mention that. Eric?
I've been reading Rich's Finance Committee updates, and really impressive. You know, to see where they started and see where they ended up. I mean, that's how committees should work. You know, so I think I just want to express my appreciation, you know, in particular to Rich and the entire committee for working through that. Because the one that came out earlier today with the red on it, that's really good stuff. I mean, that's people working together to find compromises that work best for everyone. So I didn't have any meetings, but 3 quick updates on committees that I'm part of. I gave I gave a report on my Lucy meeting last time, but I forgot to mention that at the Lucy meeting, it was announced that Center Region Planning Agency, Reagan Mann accepted an offer to be the office manager for the Center Region Planning Agency and the CCMPO, and that she'll start September 23rd. She replaces Marcella, who moved into the new MPO Transportation Planning. And speaking of her, MPO meets next Tuesday, but since our last MPO meeting, and I'll just read this because it's a lot easier, the COG, on behalf of the CCMPO, was awarded a $192,000 grant from the Federal Department of Transportation Safe Streets and Roads for All discretionary grant program, and the grant will provide the MPO with the resources to enhance its current action plan called Centered on Safety by providing additional analysis of safety-related issues which will significantly reduce serious injuries and fatalities within the county's roadway network. That's straight out of the press release that Marcel and I crafted. What that really means is that will give us the data that we need to justify going after other grants and using some of our non-discretionary funding to prioritize some of our non-discretionary funding in the places where they'll make we'll get the biggest bang for our buck, safety related. We didn't have the resources or the manpower really to get that level of detail, and now we will. And the other part of that is this is a result of us as municipalities in upping our investment in the MPO so that we could go after this unprecedented amount of discretionary funding. And so this is our first win. This is our first return on that investment. And then lastly, Tuesday night I was invited to attend the most recent Bellefonte Public Transit Task Force meeting. They meet bi-weekly. They've been established to try and find a solution to providing reliable and affordable public transportation service for the citizens of Bellefonte Borough and the surrounding communities. This particular meeting on Tuesday was open to the public to gather feedback from public transit riders on the new B-Line service provided by CATA and how the loss of CATA Go service has impacted public transportation needs in Bellefonte Borough and Benner Township. I went there and I spoke both as the person formally responsible for service planning at CATA before I retired, as College Township council member, and as the MPO chair. In relationship to College Township, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, the loss of public transportation service in Bellefonte, Spring, and Benner doesn't just affect those municipalities. It in fact affects all of the Center Region municipalities, and I don't think it's that far off to say that might affect College Township more than the other ones. Just because we know for certain, and I know from experience, that many of the businesses, not only in the Dale Summit area, draw their employment base from those municipalities. Anyways, that I'll be monitoring that. I was asked to speak and provide some perspective, and I did offer potentially some assistance from the MPO, because eventually it was going to become an MPO issue anyways. So we might as well just put that out on the table right now and get the discussion started. But I don't think I was speaking out of line representing College Township. I just wanted to give you all an update. That's it.
Thank you.
Oh, one update I missed, and I think a few others attended as well, was the Millbrook Marsh Nature Center Boardwalk Tour.
Mm-hmm.
I went yesterday evening. I don't know if any of you guys had taken that, but that was, it's very good. So if you have any questions.
I signed up for the
tomorrow
one, and I'm the one who asked if we could do the Water Authority
Right.
at 1:30.
Yeah, we're back to back for that.
Did it take an hour?
It took a little over an hour.
Okay, so
If
the
you
move
wanna
to
walk the
1:30
whole
was
thing.
probably needed.
Yeah, it's going to work.
Yeah, it was a good hour and 15, but the advisory board met right before that, so I think we had a bigger group probably than you may experience. I don't know, we'll see. Anyhow, it was good. It's definitely good to get out there, and I encourage anyone who doesn't know the current state of the boardwalk to just take a quick walk down there and walk on some shaky boards.
I just had a question. Was it well represented by folks that are not familiar, were not familiar with the boardwalk?
Probably not as much as I would like.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was an undertow of the 2025 COG budget, was the potential of that looming, but it wasn't in the current budget, so therefore
It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming, but for the 2025 budget, we're going to set it aside.
Okay, well, let's move on then to staff, PC, and other committee reports. Does staff any reports? Okay. PC.
Is that Mr. Hoffman?
Oh,
there's it.
Yeah, we got.
Ed Dara, representing the Planning Commission. We had a meeting on Tuesday night.
Excuse me. Hey, Ed, isn't it required that the PC start off with a humorous anecdote?
I'm humorous just being here.
Okay.
Sure.
We'll take that.
That's one way to go with it.
All right. We met on Tuesday night. We looked at two plans. They both came in from Penn State University. First plan we looked at was at 335 Innovation Park. It's the 335 Innovation Building on Innovation Avenue. This is the last building that will be developed in the existing Innovation Park. This will be, when it's complete, about 80,500 square feet. It will add another 107 parking spaces. Basically, they will be within the plan, the overall master plan for parking. They will also be in compliance with all the, for any kind of square footage that basically were impervious space. So we did recommend approval for that, and council should probably see that in 2 weeks. The other thing that we looked at was the preliminary final land development plan for Beaver Stadium. Basically, that plan is more or less everything on the outside of the stadium. No stadium construction. So basically, that was for their hardscape, also fencing, how they will segregate and increase their security with fencing, hardscape, cameras, lighting, landscaping, so on and so forth. We did recommend approval for that to council. You will see that in 2 weeks. That plan is relatively simple. We did have further discussion concerning the memo that you have in your packet from Lindsay concerning our recommendation to table the attainable housing, which Lindsay put together a memo dated September 13th. Since we've been working on this since September 7th of 2023. And there was a recommendation from the Planning Commission on September 3rd to table the attainable housing ordinance for a period of time. I know that's something that council is going to be discussing. If you want to discuss that now, I'll make myself available, or whenever you want to discuss it, I will also make myself available. That's my report.
Okay, thanks, Ed. All right, questions? Go ahead, say up. I'm sure there's going to be questions and comments. Rich, you want to have anything?
No, just, we kind of talked about it at the last meeting, the motion at the table, and we really felt strongly that we needed to get a joint meeting and get eyeball to eyeball.
I mean, if you want to discuss the memo, I think overall, the 6-month period of time that was in the motion, that's probably unreasonable. I'm going to give you my personal opinion. I think the items that need to be clarified would be best discussed between the Planning Commission and Council. Most of those things, I think, have been stated pretty clearly. I can go over them if you want me to. The donation of land is probably something that needs more clarification. It needs more guts in the current ordinance or a proposed ordinance, because you're going to have to look at appraisals, you're going to have to look at engineering, so on and so forth. We are not there with the ordinance that's in front of us. Our regular ordinance right now does work. Fee in lieu of, we have some questions from Planning Commission of what's that going to support, how's it going to be collected, how's it going to be used, so on and so forth. Credits for LIHTC versus, LIHTC is not attainable housing. I'm going to put that right out there. If you read the definition of what LIHTC is, that is for income less than 60%. Okay, it's also through the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. They report to that agency, has a life of 30 years. Most projects after the 30-year period usually stay in the LIHTC program. They go back in, they get re-certified for more tax credits for the rehab. So they will not be on our program. So even if they re-up for another 30 years, it's not in our program. It doesn't serve what attainable is of the definitions council gave us to serve from 60 to 85 or 60 to 120. So there are questions concerning that. Also credits for other things. We just need some clarification.
Okay.
So I think a joint meeting
Yes, the joint
can be
definitely,
done.
Candidly, this council is pretty educated on the attainable and the affordable as well. So we do have that, and my only gut comment, having been a member of the Planning Commission, is some of the stuff that has come out is beyond pure planning principles. But the resolution of it is best served by a joint meeting, eyeball to eyeball, and I know we can get there.
Okay, I'm just saying that's
Yep.
some of the concerns.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Eric? Comments?
You mentioned the Beaver Stadium plan, maybe this is a question for staff. The footprint didn't change of the stadium, at least in this phase, but the things they're doing outside the stadium, that's what tripped the threshold to require a land development plan? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so had they, if they weren't doing any of that stuff, fencing and that, it really would just be a minor plan, right? I mean, there'd be no requirement for land development.
They're close to like 80,000 square feet
Yeah,
impervious or something.
right.
Oh, yeah, that's part of the fencing, there's almost 80,000 square feet
Right.
of new impervious, but if that wasn't part of it, it'd be just a zoning permit.
Right.
There'd be
It
no
could
land.
be as simple as a
There'll be
zoning
no
permit.
land development.
And so really, that's what we're that's what we will be reviewing as those things happening outside the stadium.
Correct.
Okay. That's the only question I have.
Susan, you have any?
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed. All right, so we do have a written report from Mr. Schulte for Parks and Rec. Mr. Schulte, do you have anything to add to that you want to speak to? Or does anybody have any questions for Mr. Schulte's report either?
There's two things on there, and the second one you're gonna put off the list.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, in your package, you got my report from our September 9th meeting. At that meeting, we reviewed the Mount Nittany Manor land development plan that we had seen the previous one. And the developer had come back to us with revisions, okay, taking into account our comments. And we said, good, okay, looks better, okay. There were a couple of things that we wanted to make sure didn't, they were kind of provisions. That the land that is being identified as parkland would be a separate lot, okay, rather than just an easement on some other, one of the residential lots, and be owned by the township. And we didn't want any wording or provisions in the text that kind of implied a restricted function. The township couldn't do something there other than what we would normally do with Parks and Rec. And that there are some connections that are made there. We can't have those connections be any narrower than they already are. And I'll be glad to extrapolate on that if you desire. The other part, is a separate item on your agenda, so I'll address that later.
Yep, we'll address that one later. Is there any questions for the first item for Mr. Schulte?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on then to DEIB.
We covered pretty much everything at the last meeting, so nothing to report this evening.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to consent agenda for this evening, and that consists of the following. CA1, minutes approval of A, which is the September 5th, 2024 public hearing for Chapter 124 Stormwater Management. B is the September 5th, 2024 regular meeting. CA2, correspondence, receipt, and approval of the following. A is an email from Chris Danford dated September 4th regarding the bike pedestrian path proposal. B is an email from Daniel Materna dated September 9th regarding casino developer gifts, Penn State 10 million. C is a memo from the Planning Commission regarding the attainable housing ordinance recommendation. D is an email from Daniel Materna dated September 12th regarding follow-up casino developer gives Penn State $10 million. E is an email from Daniel Materna dated September 13th regarding Bally's Corporation terminates framework agreement with Ira Lubert's SC Gaming. F is an email from Patton Township dated September 12th regarding indoor recreation uses in the general industrial district. CA3 are the following action items. Approval. A is the execution of the final amendment to the water line lease agreement in Oak Hall Park. B is a certification of the 2025 minimum municipal obligation for the township's retirement plan. And C is a resolution R-24-26 is the local shares account grant application path to campus. Any members of council wish to pull any of these items?
One clarification, it's chapter 175 still. I don't know where 24 came from.
175.
The minutes are right.
I'd like to pull CA2A and CA2C.
A and C. Anyone else?
I'm sorry, yeah, C.
A and C?
Yep.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus CA2A and C?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Okay, let's talk about A.
So Ms. Danford was asking about options to make a pedestrian bicycle access in and out of Harris Acres and Fairfield safer. And my question was with how this would relate to our pedestrian facilities master plan. Is this a reasonable request? Is this something that would fall in under the master facilities plan? So
I'm going to be asking Dawn to chime in here momentarily. One of the things that I can tell you is that as part of the development of that master plan, this was an area that was evaluated and considered. The difficulty there has to do with road geometry primarily. And as a result, there were no, to my recollection, specific improvements that were identified for that particular area. That said, and in regard to this particular request, I do think that there is a way to bring a degree of satisfaction, finality to this particular topic. And Dawn, at this point, I think I'm going to kind of kick it to you about what we may be able to do relative to investigating or pursuing a mid-block crossing.
Yeah, one of the ideas she had was to be able to actually cross Atherton Street.
Right.
And Mike, do you want to pull up what that would entail is what is called a mid-block crossing, because it's not right at the intersection. And here's a good example. Do we have the video of it too?
Stop this. 1 second, I have it. I do.
We just installed a mid-block crossing.
Penn
State did. We're responsible for it because
right.
there's signals. It's part of our signal system now, and it's in College Township. So we're now the owners of this mid-block crossing, and it's a little hard to see from that angle.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a lag.
You have the flashing lights, you have an overhead, and then you have flashing lights on either side, wig wags. You see these down in Florida a lot, I've noticed. And they're a little bit newer here for Pennsylvania. But that would be one of the things we would be looking at, is if can we put a mid-block crossing across Atherton Street. Now, it's just interesting to point out that in her email, she points out that the crossing is very dangerous because you can't see vehicles coming over the hill. So sight distance is an issue. I mean, this email just points it out perfectly, and when sight distance is an issue, that's a big no with a mid-block crossing. But PennDOT has guidelines that you must follow to do a study for a mid-block crossing. A couple of things they'll look at are sight distance. Is not going to be all that great. And the other one is anticipated pedestrian volume, like how many people are going to be using this. So I mean, we could look at it, we'd ask PennDOT to come in and do an analysis, which is what they did with this one. It was actually done by PennDOT when Penn State requested it. And this was at an area where there were a ton of people shortcutting going across the road. So there was a definite need there. But I think we may have some issues with the idea of a mid-block crossing there, just from safety and from just volume of traffic and the speed of the traffic, things like that. So,
but working with and making a request of PennDOT to do the study will give us a definitive answer there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up as an example, because I live there, so I see people crossing and I see them coming through with kids, and so that's a concern, but that's exactly what I was thinking of, because I go through there too, and that's made a real difference. It's much better there. The pedestrian traffic is totally different. But yeah.
That was just completed just before school opened, I think, or maybe it was right after school opened, but it gets a lot of use.
Yeah, and you're just across Atherton. She had mentioned over on 45, which I think there's more traffic going over to that sidewalk or the multi-use path to go up.
One of the other things she mentioned was actually having a path that would take you to Myers Dairy.
Yes, that will.
Road. And that would be something that path to Myers Dairy, right after we finish path to campus.
Yeah.
And one of the conflicts there may ultimately be Preserve Farm. So that would be something we have to evaluate.
There's definitely some topographic issues.
Well, and right now that crossing would put them on the multi-use path all the way down to the intersection by Weiss Market.
Yeah.
They could cross, they could cross.
Yeah, no, that would be
a long,
very good if you could get it to work. But there's some hurdles there, but we'll get a hold of PennDOT, do a field view, and see if they even will consider doing an analysis.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for coming with that prepared.
Okay. We'll move on to C, the memo from Planning Commission.
Now, I would be in favor of making a motion to set that. So is there discussion that needs to happen procedurally at this point?
I think based on the conversation or the discussion that was held last meeting, when Matt was here, it was pretty clear to me that there was a consensus to try to schedule a joint meeting between the Planning Commission and Council. In thinking about that a little bit more, just from a staff perspective, administrative perspective, we do have some volume of work that's coming up here, like the College Township budget, which will be my second this year, which will be great. But
so much easier.
Yeah, of course, right? So I'm thinking that perhaps the earliest that we might be able to logically fit in a joint meeting would be in the first or second week of November at this point, because there's not a lot of September that is left at this point, and October is going to kind of be at our crescendo as far as budget work is concerned. And so if council is comfortable in trying to find some dates through a doodle poll, both council and planning commission comfortable trying to find some dates sometime in that first or second week of November, I think that may be our first opportunity to do that. If we're unsuccessful, we'll continue to identify blocks of time or time frames where we can get that scheduled.
Seeing head nods, the same consensus. I don't think feelings have changed.
So do we need a motion, or?
It's better than 6 months from now.
We're good?
I think it's consensus.
Yeah, I think it's consensus.
By acclamation, consensus.
Yeah, we can just.
Okay.
And I would define success broadly.
Oh, understood.
In the past, we've never been successful in getting everything.
There's never been 100% attendance, and we recognize that. If we have a preponderance of members of council and a preponderance of members of the planning commission, that may well be enough.
I mean, especially with the Zoom option.
Okay.
So respond as quickly as you can when you see it come in.
And we'll remind you when you don't. So that's.
Very confident.
Thank you.
Gentle reminder.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept CA2A and C?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, none opposed, we're moving on. Old business, solar power purchasing agreement update, legal fees, confirmation of energy use.
All right, that would be me. So, as you framed up earlier, Dustin, this has been a point of conversation a lot throughout the center region and at the respective municipalities and partners on the solar power purchasing agreement. One alibi, to use the term that was here earlier. Given what else was on the schedule tonight, I gave Pam a pass, but she's available if we need her. So I have her on the hotline.
3 to 5 tomorrow in this room?
Right. I have Pam available on the hotline if you know there's specific
I just want to know how many
questions.
meetings she's been in to talk about it in the last.
An awful lot,
Yeah.
and more to come. So she's getting a well-deserved reprieve this evening. Really, the crux of this is framed up, I feel, pretty well in the memo. So just wanted to kind of walk through that with you, provide an update, status update as to where we're at currently with the SPPA, and then really give you 3 questions that I need some direction on from council as one of the members of the working group to be able to provide that information back to the larger group so they have that in context as we continue to work through this process. So currently, the working group is now comprised of 10 entities. Most recently, September 9th, Harris Township voted to withdraw from it. So the 10 entities are listed there. From College Township's perspective, that includes the township itself as well as the Township Water Authority. Excuse me. The final draft of the 5 contracts that I have listed in the memo have been received, and the project management team has been working through those. Those are planned to be on the agenda for review by the working group, which again I'm part of, at the upcoming September 25th meeting. The goal of that group right now is to get those in your hands as fast as possible, with the hopes of having some action taken by the end of October. We recognize we're probably going to miss that mark a little bit, particularly for the College Township Water Authority and meeting schedules. But that's the general goal, is end of October, early November. That update kind of leads us into the 3 questions that I need some direction from council on, headed into that September 25th working group meeting. And I'll just frame them real quick. The 3 is, the first question is if College Township has any substantive concerns that may affect its ongoing commitment to the PPA. To frame it up, are we in or are we out at this point? The working group project management team really need that understanding as they're working towards finalization of the contracts and moving forward. It's a bit of a moving target and obviously shifted again on September 9th with the withdrawal of one of the members. So every time that happens, the spreadsheets change, the contracts change, and it's just another step, extension, I should say, of the discussion. Second question pertains to the additional legal service fees that has been discussed again at some length here in the community. The question is if the township is willing to pay its proportional share of the additional legal fees that have exceeded that previously authorized amount. And the third question goes back to a question we've already talked about at this body on a couple of occasions, affirming College Township's selection of one of the energy commitment levels. You'll recall in the past, this body had selected 80% of its energy use based on a 2018 number to be kind of our dedicated portion of solar energy to be procured through the project itself. In talking with Direct Energy, they've actually asked that the group narrow to 3 tiers, and fortunately we hit one of those. The 3 tiers are 50%, 80%, and 98%. So actually for both entities in College Township, we are in existing tiers. It's just seeking affirmation as to, is that the tier that you want to remain in? So what I plan to do, Mr. Chair, at your discretion, is kind of walk through these individually.
Yeah.
And get your answer, because each one kind of successfully builds on the next. And the first one is the overarching question. Yeah.
Before you go on, Mike, if you could, because there's been some happenings in the region with other partners, right? Just so we're all on the same page, right? Could we elaborate and fill in the gaps on what's happened in the past week from what, we all know? I do know that Harris Township voted to pull out from the agreement. That's correct?
Correct.
But did they commit to pay their legal fees?
Good point. They did.
Okay.
They did. So yes, they have opted to end their participation, but have agreed to pay their portion of the legal fees.
That's true.
Is there anything else that we should know?
Well, and again, I think it bears repeating that, it may not be repetitive for you. There's a possibility that folks don't know or understand this. But as you know, originally we had committed to a grand total of all the partners of $165,000 in total legal fees, okay? We now know that there is an additional, and I'm going to use an approximation, $125,000 in these similar fees that have been billed to the consortium, if you will, through the school district. Nobody has agreed to pay those at this point in time, and I want to stress that there isn't an obligation to pay those fees. All those additional billings were done at risk, and the attorneys that generated those fees and those billings were so informed that they were billing at risk. So while depending upon council's point of view, I just wanted to be sure that folks know that technically there isn't an obligation. Morally, it may be a different consideration, or from an equity standpoint, there may be a different consideration to make. But I do want to stress the fact that there isn't an obligation that those fees those additional fees be covered proportionately by College Township or other participants.
Okay. I did want to open up because I knew we have some folks that wanted to speak to this as well in the audience before we start making decisions.
The only other one that I know of in detail is that State College Borough Water Authority did have a discussion earlier today.
Okay.
At this point, they haven't made any decision as to whether they're in or out, and are continuing these discussions. So their discussion will likely happen, this level of discussion will likely happen early October.
Okay. All right, do we have anybody that wants to speak to this issue still? Go ahead, ma'am.
Once again, my name is Jackie Bonomo. I live in Lamont and have lived in College Township over 24 years. You know the facts about climate change. Life is imperiled on the planet because of what's going on. This is a scientific fact. The planet is close to 1.45 C from the last study I read this week. Above 1.5 C, we risk going over irreversible climate tipping points, planetary tipping points. 7 of the 16 are already in motion. A lot of them have to do with melting ice and rising sea levels and permafrost melting. We're already experiencing wildfires and heat waves and extreme rainstorms. Europe is being flooded out. And, every time I open the paper, there's more and more and more. This is our opportunity to do something that will slow it, hopefully someday, counter it, mitigate it. We're already feeling the effects. They're going to increase. This is something that we can do to make a change. See if there's anything else I want to say here. one of the things that we are having this public discussion during the election is about immigrants coming into the country. The more people that have their environment disrupted so that they cannot survive where they're living, the more people are going to move around the planet. People from Florida are going to move, people on the coastlines, people in California or Arizona who are undergoing these heat waves and wildfires. When insurance companies are no longer paying for people to get insurance on their homes and they're at risk, what can they do except move? So I think that we need to really look at the big picture and the long term and think about our grandchildren. Because not only, I thought, oh, it'll be our grandchildren, but now it's our generation and the next generations that are being affected. So I really hope College Township chooses to stay in this and to go the distance and make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Please walk us through.
All right.
Thank you.
So that larger question that we were talking about, the commitment to the power purchasing agreement, just some background. So going back to 2018 when this kicked off, over the 6 years, the working group started at one point at 15 members and is now at 10. The reasons for those departures have had a variety of points. One entity decided to advance their own separate solar power project. There have been concerns over the economics and viability of the project. And for some, quite frankly, it's just been the duration of time. We're 6 years in to this effort, and the complexity of it and just an awful lot of hurdles to jump have led to some of those entities stepping away. You do not have to make a decision tonight. That final decision comes at the point of execution of the contracts. But the request that came from the project management team through the working group was to get a feel for whether any of the member entities have any concerns, any revision or reservations that are leading to the potential that they may not continue. And from my perspective, I need to turn to you and see, is there anything that I need to take back to get you answers to any questions that you may have that again are giving you pause as to continuation of this effort from College Township.
Okay. So I guess you're asking us to answer the questions. So let's see what we can get on consensus and feelings. Eric, do you want to lead out?
Sure. I'm unequivocal. No, I'll stick with simpler words.
Please.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I mean, my commitment hasn't changed. My passion for it. If anything, I feel stronger about it now because in the 6 years, what we've seen is the costs come down. Originally we got into this kind of as a policy thing. We need to be leaders. We need to, take the initiative. But now the economics have actually turned a bit in our favor. So not only is it the right thing to do from a policy standpoint, for the reasons noted, it may actually end up being more economical. So yeah, I'm even more
unequivocally.
Yeah,
I'm having trouble saying
cool.
it too.
I'm in. I'm in. I'm disappointed that others are dropping out, but I'm in.
Susan.
Same. I'm in. I think we should do it. I think we've come this far. I have some comments about the legal fees. I'll reserve that for the next set of questions, but no, I'm in, and I think we should stick with it. And I think your point's well taken. The cost is coming down, but I think in terms of the comments you made, that's an important consideration, and want to acknowledge that too. So thank you.
Rich?
I will self-admit, solar isn't the answer to everything, but in this case, as Eric alluded to with the economics of it, aligning with the policy side of it, it's an easy decision.
Oh yeah, I'm in. Not just because I probably wouldn't be talked to by my family for a couple of weeks. but no, I'm in.
All right. Well, that leads us to the next question, kind of directly, and Adam's already framed it up a little bit, but I wanted to provide some context to the legal fees. And this one has obviously become a bit of a third rail topic here in the community. So going back to February of 2023, at that time, the school district opted to bring on Fager Drinker, who is a solicitor specializing in solar. And they have served as the solicitor for the PPA from that time. The participating entities authorized 3 phases of legal services totaling $165,000. That last authorization happened in September of 2023. In 2024, recognizing the complexities of the contracts, particularly in how they pertain to Pennsylvania law, and particularly Pennsylvania municipal law, the group agreed that it would be beneficial to have a lead solicitor, that being Betsy Dupuy, who represents 3 of the member entities, Center County, Patton Township, and Ferguson Township. She took the lead, took questions, comments, anything from all of the respective solicitors, and she ran point as the solicitor working with Fager Drinker to finalize the contract documents to ensure consistency with our municipal regulations. At that point, that constituted a change of scope, but Fager Drinker was also aware, as Adam framed up, there was no approval for any additional expenditures beyond the initial $165,000 that was agreed to, and we're working at risk. As of the September 10th working group meeting, Fager Drinker has incurred the following additional legal fees beyond the $165,000, and I have that framed up in a table in your packet. But in short, fees incurred through May 31st, there was an additional $153,455.50. Anticipated additional fees of $40,000 from June 1st through closing. Fager Drinker has agreed to waive $70,110. That brings us to the anticipated at-risk legal services fees of $123,334 and 50 cents. Adam rounded it out to $125.
It's a pretty big round.
Take it easy.
Coming
off the COG budget.
That's right. Just smoothed it. Just smoothed it.
Smoothing.
Each of the entities that was involved had proportional shares based on the share of the actual solar power that would be utilized in this under this agreement. College Township's share represents 1.39%. So our proportional share of those at-risk legal fees, if College Township opts to pay those, would be $1,714.50. That may actually be a little bit higher than what it ends up being, but that seems to be right now at the kind of high water mark. That seems to be. I round up, $1,800. So that's where we're at this moment. There's really 4 potential places that the township can go with this. You can opt to pay those that additional share in full. You can opt to do something, a partial share. As noted, at-risk fees, you can decline to pay these fees, and then certainly they're welcome to other potential options. But wanted to lay that on the table in front of you and kind of get your feedback.
All right. Susan, why don't you lead us out on that?
So, I'm concerned, and I don't know the communication with the working group and the project management group, but I mean, in 2023, there was an agreement to stop at $165,000. Was it ever communicated during the time it went from $165,000 to where it is today? Was that being communicated regularly? Was there discussion around that? That's a lot of money not to talk about.
There was discussion that there was continuing work with the solicitors. Right. The working group didn't hear the amount until August 28th.
Of this year.
So
why is that? Why did they not ask?
We were never under the impression that it was that much, quite honestly.
Okay.
And there was also a point, and Adam, you framed it better than I did earlier, that we felt that the clock had, or the meter had stopped running, but it hadn't.
Yeah, the project management team had anticipated the delivery of the contracts that we've talked so much about. Within literally days of having received these additional billings, or some portion of these additional billings. And the idea at the project management team level was that we would present both the contracts and the additional costs would be presented simultaneously. The error, if you will, or the mistake that I think was made at the project management team level was that when those contracts failed to materialize within the 24 to 48 hours that they had expected to receive them, that this balance billing of these legal fees was never discussed beyond, it was always, we'll wait till we get the contracts, we'll wait till we get the contracts, and that has just stretched out. So there was clearly a mistake that was made. I don't believe it was intentional, but clearly not addressing the elephant in the room has become problematic.
Well, and that's my concern. I mean, I think I'm all in, and I think we need to do what we need to do to support this. I think $1,800 is a small portion, but it's the principle, and it's the idea that if there's a management team or a working group, that somebody's on top of that, because that is a lot of money. And one of the challenges, some of what I've heard is that it's the ongoing cost evolving over time. It still doesn't change my commitment to what we're doing, and we're almost there. This is not the time to back out. So I'm voicing my concerns about what happened there, having had to deal with lawyers in my own life. I'm pretty careful. I pick up the phone, I know I'm paying for it, and I'm very careful about that. So, and those are taxpayer dollars. So,
Rich?
Yes, I mean, the 1,800 doesn't move the needle in the whole scheme of things, but it is a principle of the matter, and there was some assumption failures and communication failures that resulted from that, and although the amount is not significant, I think we were also very, very upfront with, this is what we want to pay. You know, you're pushing our tolerance for paying more. So I have concerns about paying.
Anything else?
No.
Yeah, I agree with the principal thing, and it's not a lot, right? But I have concerns about paying because I just don't know exactly where it stops. We still don't have the contracts in hand, right? What's my reassurance that we're not going to get billed for even more?
Right. So I just to reframe, the contracts have been delivered.
Okay.
They just haven't been reviewed by the working group at this point. So the anticipated number, the kind of unknown number, is that 40,000 that's out there, and that's been an ongoing dialogue between the school district and Fager Drinker, but they seem pretty confident in that number.
That there's 40,000 additional, yeah.
Yeah, from June 1 through the closing, they feel comfortable that that'll be the additional incurred. That hasn't been billed yet.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that's been said. I would offer this in addition, though, and I brought this up at facilities. And I'm not making excuses for the group. I'm just reminding folks, a little context around this. You know, 6 years ago, we started down this road, and we were heading into uncharted waters. Nobody knew there was no playbook. We were doing something very unique, trying to cobble together this group of folks to do something that was relative, both the structure and what we were doing is new. So, you know, there was going to be a lot of unanticipated efforts, needs, and dare I say, costs. So this came down to communication. But I believe the communication was a result of the somewhat unique structure that we had with the school district taking the lead. Everybody thought, that's great. We don't have to do it. School district's going to take the lead. And then we had Betsy representing us. So, you know, there wasn't really a playbook. There wasn't really anything that anybody knew they had to do based on past principles. So I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm not making excuses. I'm just putting some context into this. And I think 10 years down the road, we look at this, everybody agrees to pay, it's going to be nothing. It's going to mean nothing. You know, it's going to be written off as the learning experience. That's what you get when you're on the bleeding edge, is you get stuff like this. Again, not saying it's right, I'm just putting some context around it. So obviously, I support it. My only other question would be, it seems odd that each municipality is being asked if they're going to, what percentage of the at-risk money, you know, it seems to me did the working group get any kind of straw poll from the members that, you know, because my example is, all right, we agree to pay it all. Somebody else agrees to pay nothing, you know, and the bigger entities really are going to be driving this. Then do we still pay ours regardless of what we decide to pay $1,800? That just goes in the pot towards the at-risk amount.
Sure. So no, at this point, no. That discussion is what's happening across the region right now.
So this is the straw poll?
Yeah.
Okay. So at some point you'll come back to us and say, for the most part, everybody agreed to pay half or whatever. So we would have that discussion. Sure. Where we'd pay $900 instead of $1,800.
Yep.
Okay. This is the straw poll then?
Yeah, I would, you know, again, as your representative to the working group, I would take that back to the working group and say, whatever your decision is on those fees. One, we heard from you earlier pretty loud and clear, you're in. Whatever your decision is on the fees, that would also be relayed and become a point of discussion amongst the working group. I don't know, the only one that we know right now is Harris said they'd be willing to pay their fees.
They're out?
Even though they're out.
Even though they're out.
Okay.
But their fees would be even less than ours.
Yeah, theirs is $500.
$407 or something, yeah.
I think, though, if the sums had been more substantial, we might have a little bit more of a concern about absorbing the fees. And I take your point. This is uncharted territory, and it's a really important project, and it's different than anything. And reading through that timeline, you can see, you know, we start out saying we think it's going to cost $5,000 in legal fees, and now we're at $165 capped with an additional $195 with $70,000 waived. That's a big problem. And so, again, I think somebody, maybe you brought it up, Dustin, for me, the important piece is I believe in this project, and I believe we need to do it. But it concerns me that something that big got that far down the road, and we just didn't know. And I did notice that Patton and the county and Ferguson are paying Ms. Dupuy's fees, so that's not included in this. Maybe, you know, obviously they billed for time talking with her, but those fees are also separate and apart, and those entities are actually, those municipalities and organizations are paying. So.
Yeah, and if I could follow up on that, it's a shame that this has come. I mean, we should be 6 years in now celebrating what we've done collectively as a, and, you know, unfortunately we have this thing hanging over us. So the last thing I'd want to see is a bunch of infighting within the members over, I consider it a short-term inconvenience, short-term mistake.
And we're not fighting. It's you know, talking about here.
I mean, between the member,
right.
I mean, not between us.
Right.
I mean, between the entities involved.
And we're in.
Yeah.
We're in.
We're in with a bullet, with an asterisk.
Don't ask me for any more money, but I'm in.
Right, I think that's the only concern. We said that last time.
Yeah.
And then now we've come again. But I do believe paying it speaks to our commitment to the project and everything. Despite those concerns, despite those reservations, here we are.
pay it?
That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So the inclination at this point for your discussion points is that we're in and we'll pay.
Yeah. I think it's easier for us to say yes because it's a lot less of a dollar amount than others.
Should that dollar amount come back with more dollars, that might be more of an issue. But I think at this point, we need to do it and we need to support it.
And I can
I've made my point.
And I will certainly share it in that context.
Thank you.
There's disappointment and a recognition that something broke down here. But there's also the commitment to the project, and at this point, a commitment to paying that proportional share to see it be a success.
Okay. Go. One more question for us.
Last question is probably the easiest one as far as I'm concerned, and that's the energy tier. Back in 2023, council set their initial commitment level at 80%. And as I noted, meaning 80% of the township's energy use based on the 2018 usage number would be filled through the solar energy through the PPA. As I noted, Direct Energy has come back for the purposes of the contracts and asked that all entities kind of fit into 3 buckets, 50, 80, or 98. So the question before you tonight is, are we still at 80?
Okay. Whose turn is to go first? So I'll start.
I got it.
You got it.
We're on the bleeding edge. We were on the bleeding edge. We picked it right from the start. We're in at 80%.
People followed our lead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely on board with 80%, but I mean, I would even be willing to consider 98, showing that the projections for the cost savings now that we see, that we didn't see prior, but.
Well, we previously discussed this and everything, and am I correct that we do have we have the opportunity to go higher later, but not lower?
Yeah, and,
you know, let's stay in the middle then.
Whatever you pick is what you'll be paying at.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So if you pick 80 and you only pick up 50, you're gonna be paying for 80. Okay? But there is the opportunity that theoretically, yes, you could pick up additional.
Right. So that, and again, just kind of taking a step back in more context, that 80% equates to a kilowatt hour number. And I don't have that right here in front of me, but you know, when we initially talked about it in 2023, 80% was kind of hedge the bet a little bit for potential future over the next 15 years energy efficiencies. So if our energy use dropped, we were still within a place where we're not paying for energy we're not using.
Yeah, we got more efficient, right?
This was the sweet
If we were 100% efficient on everything, I mean, we've got pumps that could be upgraded to more efficient lights, on and on and on. So.
Yeah, and some of the entities, I will tell you, are thinking ahead to, okay, we're in at this, but we may want to do our own separate solar energy. And at that point, they recognize their number might actually shrink. So that's why they've been hitting at the 80 or lower percentages.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder. I'm still in at 80 then. Eric?
Yeah, and if I understand it correctly, at 80, down the road, 80% of what we commit to could meet 100% of our needs.
Correct.
Yeah, so I'm good with 80.
Susan?
80.
Okay.
That's all I have for you. Thank you.
All right. New business number 1, commuter routes through parks at dark, Parks and Rec Committee.
My memo was short and sweet. It basically summarized the motion that was made at the last meeting regarding the remand that council had provided to the committee, biking through parks at night. Mr. Cox did attend the meeting and provided his plea. The committee did discuss it. They had 2 major issues. One is that there is 24/7 access to bike paths that traverse the township and do not cut through parks, namely like Atherton and the College Township path that's out here. And there was concern that such that, say a group of kids could loiter in a park, and if stopped, they could easily make up something and there would be no way to discern if they truly were commuters versus not. So, enforcement was probably, would be a big issue. So they voted in favor to not alter the current ordinance.
Dave, did you want to say anything to it?
I want to give you the opportunity to ask questions.
Amy, you didn't have anything else, did you?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. I want to point out that included in that proposal was a map that it misstates or misrepresents the issue. Okay, it shows pedestrian and bicycle routes through Center Region parks that are not through Center Region, at least not in College Township parks. Okay, the only even if the township was to change the ordinance, it wouldn't have affected most of what was represented on here anyway.
Okay.
What we refer to as the College Township Bikeway is on PennDOT right away. It doesn't go through a park. Okay, I know that for a fact 'cause when we extended it. Okay, there was a big discussion about, well, there's this fence. Okay, it divides the private property from the PennDOT right away. We had to actually pay to move the fence. Okay, so I know for a fact that it's on PennDOT right away. It's not in the parks. Another portion in question is Puddintown Road.
Right.
That's all on Puddintown, College Township property on the road, and none of those are really an issue here. Okay, the issue, background information on that. We don't get very many complaints at Parks and Rec. But you know, we do have to represent our neighbors and our neighbors' concerns with regards to what's happening in the park, where the park is adjacent to their property. And as such, we're sensitive to their concerns with what happens there at night. And the township has only, well, let me phrase it this way, I'm only aware of one tool in our tool bag to deal with that. And that is to put up a sign that says the parks are closed at night, because that gives the police a tool, a mechanism for dealing with it. Beyond that, we're stuck. So, taking all of that into consideration, in addition to what Amy said, it was a slam dunk for us. So it just doesn't seem like a good idea.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Okay.
Just hang out for any questions. Anybody has anything? Eric, did you have anything you want to start?
Yeah, I'm looking at the map. So what bike paths would be affected?
Can you put the map up on the screen?
It's not the fat ones, because the fat some of the thicker lines are in the PennDOT right away.
Yeah. The major bike routes are in the right of way, is what we're saying.
If you bring it up,
Yeah, I just did too.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we blow that up just to College Township?
Yeah,
More or less. Okay.
that would be super helpful.
The gentleman was the
If you take it
Keep it go,
left,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
too-
There you go.
is that good?
Bring it down a little.
Bring it down.
Drag it
So yeah, it's basically slab cabin, walnut,
Yeah, I
not
know
really
that.
even walnut
It's-
springs.
It's those five.
Yeah.
The gentleman who raised the concern, was trying to get home from work, okay, and he works down.
I just want to know what segments are not in the
He was gonna
PennDOT right away.
get to here, okay? And so he was accosted, let's see, where it goes into Spring Creek Park, here, okay? He was trying to, so in other words, he was right in that parking lot.
Okay, Dave, I'll ask again. What segments on the map would you not be allowed to ride at night?
The parking lot of Spring Creek Park.
That's it?
That's
In the
the
entire
only
township?
one that I'm aware of, okay? You might consider this, okay? But that's a whole different.
Yeah, that's a whole different kettle of fish. Yes.
And I'm not gonna go down that path, okay?
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's the only section.
Yeah, the only practical implication for allowing commuter traffic is a theoretical commute that comes off of Puddintown Road through the Spring Creek Park parking lot, and an individual may choose to continue through the park to the Hauserville Road entrance.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, that is and again, that's all, by my estimation, that's the theoretical
Yeah, because
path.
all of this is PennDOT.
Yeah, everything else, Dave's absolutely right, all of that, and we were both around for the moving of the fence and everything else. All of that is in PennDOT right of way, and Thompson Woods Preserve is not part of this conversation because of the deed restrictions that are involved there.
Whole separate discussion.
You need
Okay.
to use the microphone,
Okay.
Dave.
The mic, Dave.
Pick up you can pick up the mic.
Yeah.
All right, second
Okay,
question,
thank you.
comment.
Yeah, so this is the section that really is in question, and of course, there are houses here. And I would sympathize with the gentleman, okay, because the bike path on Hauserville, on Puddintown ends right there, okay? The shoulder to the road, okay, is nice for up just around this curve,
Right.
okay? And then there's a roadway that comes in here like so, okay? And then the shoulder goes to nil beyond that, okay? I sympathize with them because especially at night, it's not very good. And the shoulder, of course, on Hauserville, we know is not conducive to cycling. And we as a township, I would encourage to address those issues, okay? Make them bicycle pedestrian friendly, well received as far as we all can tell.
Okay, you had another question here?
Yeah. Question and a point. Going back to when we took over Hauserville Road in Puddintown from PennDOT. One of the main reasons that we went through that effort was to create an alternative pedestrian bicycle route between points beyond Pike Street and campus, given the geographic challenges of constructing a bike path on north of East College Avenue. And all along, that envisioned path, when the network was in, included utilizing the path through Spring Creek Park. In other words, that's why the sidewalk ended on Hauserville Road at the entrance to Spring Creek Park, correct? Yes.
It's news to me.
Okay. Because we were going to have an existing path through Spring Creek that would connect with the bike path along Puddintown, which would eventually connect with the sidewalks at Millbrook, take you back out to College Avenue. It's just a point I'm making, is that we have been planning all along for that to be part of the path to campus, the bypass around College Avenue. Take that for what it's worth.
Is that in the PED plan?
Yeah, one of the things that I would reference is the PED plan did contemplate Hauserville Road, Puddintown. And during the discussions, as you would probably recall, the community came out in force, concerned about that connection along Hauserville to Puddintown. And the alternative that they brought forward was through the park.
Through the park.
So that has kind of been our plans to be used as a connector, and also that would assume to be used for commuting. So I think that's a point that we need to keep in mind. The second point would be, and not a question for tonight, but what do other townships do? Does anyone else allow, does anyone else make exceptions to?
Yeah, that's now.
Now they do.
That's part of the crux
That's
of
what I
this
thought.
discussion.
We got this moving as other municipalities were doing it.
Patton and Ferguson have both changed their ordinances, added language that referenced the use of the pathways through parks would be open.
So that leads to my last comment. I hear what Park and Rec is saying about the potential for abuse. But gee golly, other municipalities are doing it, and I have to tell you, if there's a bunch of kids sitting in their car in the parking lot at Spring Creek and the cops show up, I think the cops will be able to tell that they're not riding their bikes through. I mean, at some point, I'm a little concerned we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. It seems to me that that is a, I don't want to say convenient excuse to not do this, but I'd really like to hear how other municipalities are dealing with that and if that is actually an issue. Because it seems on the surface that that's a call I could trust folks to make, you know, on site, should it even be an issue. This is my comments.
Okay. Susan?
The PED plan issue is something I didn't know about, so I need to think about that.
Okay, we can come back to you. Rich?
Eric touched on the one. I don't think if we allow this, it decreases the ability to enforce whatever. I look at like Mark, most of his stuff, it isn't to be able to cite somebody, it's to get compliance. So if the police had to come because there was people there loitering, they would disperse them, is my belief. So I don't have a strong feeling about that being an issue. I would say the other side of it is de minimis, that of what, at this time, it is de minimis, how much it really impacts or anything in this that we have to take immediate action and everything. But as part of our master plan, I think it does need to be considered and looked at and everything. And I'm okay waiting a little bit. Let's let Ferguson and Patton's ordinances percolate a little bit and see if they have some issues that we might be able to avoid, simply because it is, you know, it is minor at this point, but it could grow. I mean, we're encouraging this alternative transportation. This seems like a small item to support that.
Yeah. Can I say something first, and then yeah. Yeah, I agree that it's de minimis in this case. Now, what my understanding was that, and this is, you can kind of just hear me out as I go through this. If we said, oh, we can open up, you know, transportation or transit through parks at night, that, you know, originally the intent was that that would just open it up free for all and not limit it to bike paths, right? So essentially, if we were to pass or change the ordinance, I could just ride right through Spring Creek Park at night, right, if I wanted to.
Or any other park.
Or any other park.
That's not what I thought it was. But.
Well, and that was my understanding, but I think there's also a way to craft this to limit it.
Yeah.
And even in this very specific instance, to limit it to what we know is the piece that really is the only one affected. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
The mic, just the mic. Grab the mic.
The problem is that, number one, I question how many other townships, okay, do they have paths that are surrounded by houses and have parks going, the routes going through the park, okay? For example, this doesn't go through a park, okay? It's on the outside, okay? Daleview, okay, other ones here. The problem is our concern with the people that live around those parks. They went into this with an understanding that they'd have peace of mind, peaceful evenings, okay? And when you open the door, that kind of goes away from their peace of mind, okay? So I would suggest that, yeah, wait and see is good, okay? We, as a historical thing, we don't have big problems in the parks, okay? We've been innocuous things when the police have been called, okay? And I think it'll stay that way, but I don't want to see the only tool in our only arrow in our quiver be taken away. It's really good.
And I would offer, again, I don't think it is it is a little discouraging to always assume the ill intent of all. I'm just going to throw that out there, but I don't think that if they're loitering, that's still not allowed, and so the authorities still have the ability to do that without
As a point of information, the only tool that really the police have is disturbing the peace.
Right.
Loitering is not.
Do you really think that the closed at dusk is what's preventing all the issue? Or maybe we actually have some good people that don't want to be a burden on their neighbors? I mean, that's another consideration too, so.
Can we go back to that for a minute? I mean, if there's a bunch of people sitting in their car in the parking lot at Spring Creek, they're in the park after dark. Even if we have this ordinance in place, they're not commuting through the park.
Right. Yeah.
So, we already have that. That tool is still available.
Should be
Park
commuting
closes at dark unless, whatever we craft, unless you're on your bike at the time moving along the bike path, is how I envisioned it.
Yeah, right, you'd have to craft it to where you limit it, right, to say, it's non-vehicular traffic, right, that's allowed,
Right.
as far as commuting,
And I
right?
think,
Because I shouldn't be allowed to cut through the parking lot in my car.
Well, it's a dead end, but you can't get from one end to the other.
I like Rich's solution to wait. I like the idea, Ferguson and Patton just changed their ordinances. So I think waiting and seeing, I had a hard time envisioning all of this on a map. So the other piece, I know that we've had some problems in Spring Creek Park and up by, what is the neighborhood?
Fogelman.
Yeah, Fogelman. So there's been some issues. So those residents in those areas are probably a little sensitive to the idea that anything's changing. If we give it time, we let things settle down, we're developing the path to campus. I can see that in the future, when we develop the path to campus and we continue to develop the Dale Summit area, we're going to want to have a better way for people to commute from that side of town onto campus. And but that seems like a much bigger undertaking over time, and that would go back to the PED plan. So I'm in favor of Rich's solution right now, giving it some time and maybe thinking it through. This was something we saw on the consent agenda and pulled to new business tonight. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I support it too. I just wanted to clarify that there would
Well, I'm
still
glad
be.
I'm glad you brought up that piece of the PED plan because I'm not as familiar with that. So I always appreciate the history and the context when I wasn't here for that.
But we still have
gave me
time.
pause.
Those sidewalks aren't in place yet.
Right.
So that
Right.
still gives us the time to.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in support of a wait and see too, especially since it is such a small segment. And you actually reminded me of that, right? It's not a parking lot the whole way through. There is a stretch, that is a bike path, right, that goes right by the tennis courts, right?
Actually, it's not even a bike path, okay, it's only about, I think it's 5 feet wide, okay?
Maybe.
Because
Maybe.
it was put in there,
Yeah.
1970s maybe, okay?
And ultimately, we want to do
For that
something
really
like
cool
this.
new workout equipment.
But do it right.
Yeah, what is that? I've been meaning to ask what that is. The green stuff?
Yeah.
It's in there now.
The fitness equipment that they put in.
Yeah.
It's what?
The fitness
Fitness
equipment.
equipment.
Okay.
New fitness.
Yeah, I've used it twice now. My
New
daughter's made me do it.
fitness.
Yeah.
Good.
Mike.
And this goes back to one of your earlier points. Just so you're aware, what Patton and Ferguson have done, they've obviously had these discussions and been very, kind of centered in on some of the very key points that you're referencing and Mr. Schulte's referencing. So the words that they put in the ordinance are kind of important. Restrictions on hours of use for parks, whether by posted regulations or other regulations in the code, shall not affect the right of the public to use pathways in or through public parks for the purposes of bike or other similar travel. So what they did, instead of a blanket removal of the dusk to dawn or the dawn to dusk restrictions, was kind of tighten that description up. So you were talking at that point a little bit. I just wanted to share that wording.
Thank you.
It circles back to the discussion point. There's no way to effectively tell the difference between a commuter and somebody that's hanging out and just happens to be meeting out bike. There's no way to tell the difference.
So we'll wait and see till we develop our PED plan a little more. Is that what we're kind of thinking?
Well, and more data points from it.
See how Ferguson and enforcement goes.
Adam?
The only thing that I wanted to bring up is that we have had, over time, kind of a repeat request for passage through Fogelman Field for the purpose of getting children to school.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
some
was
of you
thinking
may
about.
remember that, I don't know. And again, that actually had to do much more with winter maintenance than it did this particular issue. But as we wait and see, I think that is another park area that we would need to contemplate as we were thinking this through in terms of that kind of a modification, what that may or may not do in within the context of that particular park. So just something else to throw out there. I was having trouble identifying areas or parks where this would actually have an impact. And Spring Creek was the first that came to mind, but just sitting
I
here,
was
it
thinking
dawned on me
Fogelman, but I
Fogelman.
misspoke and said Spring Creek. When I said about cutting through a park, I was thinking Fogelman.
And that's a good point. That is an area that is of concern, shall we say?
Where there's no real bike path, right?
Right, there's clearly a path. Clearly a path, you know, that's intended to be an exercise path around the perimeter of the
And it goes
facility.
all the way up to the overlook too.
But it is accessible. But again, the context in which we were asked about that primarily was back and forth, allowing someone to bike their kid to school, and it had to do with winter maintenance.
Right, it has to do that. They're not taking their kid to school dusk to dawn.
Well, there you go. But
I hope not.
Right, but it's
Yes.
in a similar vein. If we did something like this, it theoretically could apply there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example. I thank you, because that is an area of concern. What happens there is off of Meadow, Lark, or whatever it is, there's a parking lot, and then there's a paved path that gets you into Fogelman, and then that takes you through Fogelman, which brings you out to school. And that's a perfect example of, that would say that that whole route is open 24/7. Okay? And
If we allowed it across all.
If you allowed it across all.
But to Eric's point and Dustin's point,
No.
we would craft.
And
Where
nobody's
applicable.
talking 20, I wasn't talking 24/7 either, so I mean, if you can put language in there.
Oh, you could put so many hours
Yeah, I
after
mean,
sunset,
that's-
right, yeah.
We're not gonna figure it out tonight, but.
No.
Right, because, yeah, I mean, right, I mean feasibly, no one should be commuting through there at 1 o'clock in the morning. They could, especially when the casino opens.
If they work till 11 o'clock at the hospital,
That's
they
right.
very well might be doing that.
Might do it, yeah.
By the time you get done with your shift,
or they
it's 1
work in a
o'clock.
restaurant, okay, and they get done at 2 in the morning, whatever. That's a very real situation.
Mark?
I'd just like to point out, there's a lot of time spent on this. This is all about one encounter someone had in 2021. There have not been any other people come forward. I can speak from the enforcement perspective with some credibility and knowledge. And we've had some discussion with amongst some of us within the staff. Having this ordinance in place gives the police another tool in their toolbox to approach people, maybe ask an extra question or two, identify who that is. Oh, park's closed, let me see some ID. In my experience, I don't know that, I'm sure there's one or two out there, but I don't know many police officers that would issue a citation to somebody who is legitimately in there at any hour. And you take that one step further, if they come across that one police officer who decides, I'm going to issue a citation to the nurse who got held over on shift and is riding her bike home, I think the odds of a district justice convicting them of that are even slimmer yet. This is something I kind of have to stand on with what Mr. Schulte is talking about. And, you know, should this become a problem in the future and you get a half a dozen more people say, I'd keep you know, the police are harassing me, maybe consider it then, but this, I look at this as, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and, you know, that would be my perspective.
As a former police officer.
Yes.
And I'll go back to what I said earlier. Once the sidewalks are in along Houserville Road and Puddintown, we will have created a ped bike connection from Pike Street to campus. And all sections of it will be open 24/7, except for that piece in Spring Creek. Again, not a discussion for tonight.
Right.
Just a point to help support the idea of let's wait and see what happens, and we'll figure it out at a later date. But let's not lose sight of that we are creating a continuous alternative path from Pike Street to campus that includes that piece through Spring Creek. So unless we're gonna build sidewalks on Houserville and Puddintown, we're using that piece for that network.
Well, to your point too, Eric, I think it gives us a good data point, or a good conversation around when we start building out even more, right? And saying, okay, you know, does this support night transit travel?
And I agree with what you say for right now and for the foreseeable future, but once that network is in place, we need to be prepared to revisit this discussion, I think.
Yep. Okay. I see head nods. Agreement. All right.
Status quo.
Status quo. No action. Thank you, Dave. Okay, moving on to staff informatives. Anything staff wants to highlight for us?
I have
Just the
nothing.
county convention on October 29th, and if you have any nominations for the Almond Leadership Award or the Donaldson Community Planning Award, let me know.
Okay.
And let me know if you can attend.
Council staff, other matters.
Real quick, under staff informatives, I do want to draw council's attention, if you've not had an opportunity, we do have our first annual Workforce Housing Ordinance Admin Report that was included in the packet. This is with respect to the memorandum of understanding that we have with the Center County Housing Land Trust, who performs a lot of the workforce housing tasks identified in our ordinance, and in this particular case are pertaining to the units that we have presently, all of which are located at Aspen Heights Development. So if you hadn't had an opportunity to take a look at that, I would encourage you to do so.
Thank you. All right.
I got a question.
Yep.
Steve Shannon is listed as land development plan still under construction.
Actually, that's true. In fact, I believe that they initiated.
I saw that earlier today. Was that?
That's the last thing left.
I wondered if that was related, because it was either that or Rural King.
Yeah, well, it's happening simultaneous with that sinkhole matter as well. So there may be a little confusion about who's doing what out there, but.
Now, this was by Aldi. This was the corner by Aldi behind Steve Shannon.
The College Avenue section is also being completed.
Okay. Nice. Rich, did you have something?
I did, Al, I had sent out the PML resolutions.
Yes.
Is there any concerns from anyone?
I don't think so. I looked at them, but I didn't really drill into them, so I was going to mention that to you and tell you I'd get back to you this weekend. Extend the deadline if I may, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I looked at them. Thank you for
They're
doing that, by
pretty
the way. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Any other matters? Final motion?
Move to adjourn. Second.
Adjourn.
You're watching CNET, Center County's Government and Educational Access Network.
So you want to vote in Center County? To be eligible to vote in any election, you must be registered in the county 15 days or more before said election. You can check your registration status at vote.pa.gov. Click on Register to Vote, then check your voter registration. You can register online to vote at vote.pa.gov. Click on Register to Vote, then select Register to Vote Online to complete and submit your registration online. Or, if you want a registration form mailed to you, click on Register to Vote, then Register to Vote. You can also download the form straight to your computer, print it out, and mail it directly. If you are voting for the first time in a polling location, you will be required to show ID. You can verify authorized types of ID at vote.pa.gov. Click on Voting in PA, then First Time Voters. Additionally, if your address changes, you must update your registration. This could change the location where you go to vote. You can update your registration online as well at vote.pa.gov. Remember, if you want to vote in Center County, you must be registered in Center County for your ballot to count.